viviera, mi madre me dijo un día.
Con mucha sabiduría, que la vida la viviera, que la vida la viviera. Con mucha sabiduría.
Que la vida la viviera, que la vida la viviera con mucha sabiduría. Mi mamá me dijo que sembrara flores, que saliera al campo a buscar amores. Mi mamá me dijo que sembrara flores, que saliera al campo a buscar amores.
Que yo me saliera al campo, mi madre me dijo a mí.
Mi madre me dijo a mí que yo me saliera al campo, que yo me saliera al campo, mi madre me dijo a mí.
Que cortaran una flor para llevarla en su santo, para llevarla en su santo. Que cortara yo una flor,
que le cortara una flor para llevarla en su santo. Mi madre me dijo a mí que yo me saliera al campo. Mi mamá me dijo que sembrara flores, que saliera al campo a buscar amores. Mi mamá me dijo que sembrara flores, que saliera al campo a buscar amores. Mi mamá me dijo que sembrara flores, que saliera al campo a buscar amores. Mi mamá me dijo que sembrara flores, que saliera al campo a buscar amores.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Everybody there?
¿Qué onda?
Hey.
Hey, buenas noches a todos, ¿cómo están?
Nice. Todo bien acá. Empezando el show. Let me go ahead and just start it now, I guess. What's up, everybody, and welcome to El Pocho Hour. Live, I guess, huh? We got a special guest here today. We got Cholo Mexicano, who's going to share with us a bit about the Chicano, I guess, history, identity, genesis. I noticed that with this term Chicano, a lot of people seem to define it in many different ways. And there's not really like a concise, what can I say, like definition. Not everyone seems to agree exactly what it means. So I think it's an important subject for all of us to familiarize ourselves with. And there's actually a lot of really, really interesting personalities in history that have come out from, I don't know, do you want to call this a movement? How would you characterize Chicano?
Yeah, I would characterize it as a movement, but it just didn't last very long. You have to have a good foundation, and that's where they messed up, in my opinion. They got some things right, but you can't have a super rebellious spirit and expect it to last forever.
I see what you're saying. Why don't you introduce yourself a bit to the panel here and to everybody who's watching?
All right, so essentially, grew up in America, Salinas, California. No, I'm not Chicano in the whatever cultural sense because we don't have it here in Yuma where I currently live at. But my name is Jose Luis Rocha, Orthodox Christian, converted a couple years ago. Really started getting back into being Mexican, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So,
can you say that again? So you said you got into being Mexican?
Again, yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, it's because my family wanted me to assimilate. So, they didn't teach me Spanish. I mean, I've been going to Leon, Guanajuato since I was like 2 years old, but no, America's your flag, you gotta defend America, this and that. So
I see.
All right.
Let me pause real quick because I said that I'm going to start every show with a prayer. So why don't we just go ahead and do that? Very quick prayer here. Todo mundo persínese. And we're going to say a quick prayer for, I guess, this labor that we're going to launch off. So, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
O Lord Jesus Christ, only begotten Son of thine unoriginate Father, thou hast said with thy most pure lips, for without me ye can do nothing. My Lord, O Lord, in faith having embraced thy words, I fall down before thy goodness. Help me, a sinner, to complete through thee thyself this work which I'm about to begin. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, let's get back into it. So help me understand a little bit. So your parents came here as immigrants, and are you the only child? You have a couple siblings?
Yeah, I got one brother.
Okay, and so you guys were born and raised in the U.S.?
Yeah.
And they didn't kind of want you to kind of look back where they left, I guess.
Well, my old man always took me to Leon, Guanajuato, so I mean, there's that.
Right. But at the same time, he didn't want you to learn the language, or what was the situation around that?
Let's put it this way. My old man was an interesting guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that he didn't want me to learn the language, it's that he was so busy doing his own thing that he neglected to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's the one that gave me the job that I got today. He's the one that started the business that I'm working in. So, I mean, he did give me an education. He just neglected to teach me Spanish, and I had to learn it from everybody else that we were working with because, like, none of my clients speak English.
Yeah. And I understand that because I think that happens a lot with the immigrant families, especially with the fathers that, they're so busy working day and night to basically, keep their families afloat and be able to kind of move up that, sadly, certain things are kind of let go of.
Yep. Yeah. And it was always the clients and his friends that were telling me, "You're not American, you're Mexican. Si eres un mexicano," so.
How do you react? Sorry, Rancho.
No, dale.
How do you reacted at the beginning when they told you that?
Yeah, well, I told them what my parents told me at first, and I'm like, "No, I'm American," But the turning point for me was like in 2014. when I started questioning the paradigm of what it means to be American. And I started getting flack from the right wingers and the left. And I'm like, well, obviously I don't fit in either of these camps. So there's something going on here. Because if you don't toe the party line, oh man, you get called every name in the book and you get kicked out pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. So, but your dad still took you back to Leon, Guanajuato.
Yeah, for a while. There was like a period of like 10 years where he didn't, and pretty much I had to beg him to like take me with him.
Right. So now that you feel like coming back to your roots and such, you know, like what's been the difference in your life? You know, has it coincided with kind of this spiritual awakening in your life as well?
Yeah, well, for one, I love it in Mexico a lot more than America, because over there I'm just a guy, you know, I'm just part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in America, you're always being categorized and compartmentalized into some type of category, you know, where they always have to apply that divide and conquer. Oh, you're libertarian, you're this, this, and you got like 1,000 different identities, you know. And like in Mexico, you're just Mexican.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's like all these kind of consumer groups. Klaus, were you going to ask him a question?
Yes, sir. Hey, Cholo, how's it going, man? Nice to meet you.
Hey, gracias a Dios.
Sí, señor, gracias a Dios. It's more of a comment than a question, but I have noticed that a lot of Hispano parents, they take a lot of things for granted when it comes to the U.S., and they just assume their kids are just going to either absorb it or that it's not relevant. So I'm assuming that the Spanish thing was one of those things, right? Your dad just probably assumed you were just going to pick it up eventually.
Yeah, I guess, you know, he always spoke Spanglish to us, so it was
That's
super annoying because when I was really trying to learn Spanish, he was always talking Spanglish, and it's like, no, necesitas decir en español para platicar porque está importante, necesito hablar con mi gente, you know.
Yeah. Did your dad come here young?
Oh no, he came in his late 20s.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still kind of young. That's still relatively young. Just not as a little kid. I get it. Now I understand. I mean, the whole Spanglish thing is like an issue. Like me, you know, dealing with my son, like I try very hard to speak to him in English, so he kind of learns that. And then his mom speaks to him in Spanish, though I speak to him in Spanish a lot too. But I'm the only one that speaks to him in English so that he doesn't mix the languages up. Because that's the thing with a lot of Hispanics that grow up speaking Spanglish. They don't speak English very well. They don't speak Spanish very well. They don't seem to be able to distinguish the two tongues. So
Yeah.
you have to be really intentional with how you're going to introduce the language for them.
Yeah. Well, my mom was always harping on me. You either speak English or you speak Spanish. You don't speak Spanglish.
Right.
So, I mean, I got English down solid. I correct people on their English all the time, even native English speakers.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about, you know, your handle name? How did you get to that name? How did you get that name? What does it mean?
Well, for one, there's a cultural difference between like LA and Yuma, where I grew up, or California in general, maybe even Tejas or other places, you know, where being a cholo is really kind of like not just a criminal identity, but it's a style, right? But being a cholo in Yuma is more of more of an attitude. So you can be all gothed out and you still be a cholo because you have a certain attitude about you, right?
Got you.
And when I started getting out of the hustle game, you know, I was like, well, I mean, people are still freaking calling me cholo. Like, no matter what clothes I put on, they're like, hey, get on that cholo. And I'm like, well, I'm not in that lifestyle anymore. So I just X'd it out. That's kind of where I started. And I built up a kind of a philosophy around it.
Got you. Do you want to share a little bit about that philosophy?
Yeah, well, to me, cholo with a ch is, you're still living in sin, you're still being a criminal. But cholo to me is like, okay, well, I repented of that. I'm gonna keep the good things that I learned from that lifestyle and get rid of all the criminality and all the other stuff, and
Yeah.
just bear the cross.
Oh no, that
So
definitely resounds to me.
I like that.
Yeah, me too, man. There's definitely value in it. Okay, so why don't we dig in a little bit here? Share with us exactly, what a Chicano is. How did it develop? I know you have some really good stuff to share with us as far as the history. Just to kind of give context to everybody, Sholo here had shared some stuff through comments on the video. Because again, people have certain opinions about what a Chicano is, and I think thanks to Cholo, I kind of learn to respect it more, because some of the people involved in the very beginning of this movement are extremely impressive people. They're very, very educated. In fact, they're very much rooted in their Hispanic ancestry and heritage as well, which totally surprised me, because I think the stereotype we have is like, I don't know, Chicanos are like LARPing as Aztecs, So why don't you kind of, take our hand here and share with us a little bit about that?
yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely a cultural symbolism, and to be able to decipher the messages that you got to go through, not just because you see something Indio does not necessarily mean they're LARPing as Indios.
Mm-hmm.
The Aztec warrior being the
That's
most
just
common is
yeah,
that's just a symbol of being, a warrior. It's not because he's Indio. It's just he's a warrior. This is our culture. This is part of where we come from.
It's like
Right.
the pilgrims.
Instead of using or using the white knight or something, it's like somebody has to. There's always got to be an archetype of what it means to be a warrior, and they chose, the Aztecs.
Yep, totally. Okay, so share with us a little bit about the history. Like, how did that term come about, and I guess about that population or that generation where it came about.
You want to start from the very beginning? Because I shared with you a whole bunch of notes.
Yeah. Let's just kind of start from the very beginning. Obviously, we don't have to go through every single point, but just to kind of give people a historical timeline of how this whole thing came about.
All right. So basically, to me, from my research, the Chicano identity kind of really starts with Faustino Rodriguez San Pedro y Diaz Arguelles. They coined the term La Raza Española in celebration of, the conquest of the Americas. And, La Raza Española doesn't really stick, but you start seeing it, the usage of the word La Raza in a lot of the songs during the Communist Revolution in the 1920s. You can actually look up some of the songs on YouTube, and you'll hear the lyrics, and they'd be like, La Raza en la Tierra, and it's like, oh, okay. So that's where I start to...
You see the strain.
Because, yeah. All right. And of course, we got Jose Vasconcelos, who gets appointed to head education in Mexico after the Communist Revolution. And he writes La Raza Cósmica, and how a lot of what's in there starts to lay the foundation of what it means to be Chicano later on when they come across it. So, but it's really Diego Rivera, the muralist, that starts changing the culture of what it means to be Mexican into more of an indigenous identity. And he starts portraying like the Indio as being oppressed, and he portrays the Spaniards as pretty much being the same as the Anglos. And that's a lot of the murals that he does.
Yeah,
so
and
that's when you start seeing
the Black Legend.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, Diego Rivera was also friends with Saul Alinsky.
Right.
When he got kicked out. He fled to Mexico after he was kicked out of Russia.
Right. Parentheses. Diego Rivera, parenthesis, parenthesis, parenthesis.
But you know what's
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
interesting is that even in that idea of like the nationalist version, nationalist dash indigenous idea of El PRI, of all of that, that was in to a certain extent like a perversion of Vasconcelos' ideals. Even in there is the idea of mestizaje going around. So there's even a reivindicación of Spain, even if it's a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Mhm.
There's recognition of it, it seems, at the very least.
Exactly. And I think there's an interesting Chicano poet. Sorry if I'm taking. I'm not a Chicano myself. Sorry if I'm taking your space, Cholo.
Oh, man, come on. This is an open discussion, please.
Yeah.
I know you a lot, so share with us.
Yeah. So his name is Rodolfo. Yeah. His name is Rodolfo Gonzalez. I think Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez. I think it was like a boxer even. You know,
Yeah.
he was like
We're actually
yeah,
we're
yeah.
actually cover him in detail, right? Part of the lecture
Yep.
today.
yeah. What happened? Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was saying that we're gonna cover him in detail a bit, because what are we gonna touch on? A little bit about the history and its development, and then you're gonna take us to like the three leaders of this kind of movement, or the initiation of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it's
Look at this.
it's
Look at this.
Rodolfo,
Yeah. Continue.
right? Well, Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez is the one that pens the poem "Yo Soy Joaquin," right? And that's like the main poem that kind of develops the spiritual essence of what it means to be Chicano. But he's also the one that organizes the first Chicano Youth Conference in 1969. So, I mean, he was a pretty big activist.
I was exactly going to refer to that and to the fragment of how do he engages with Cortés and Cuauhtémoc, right? So he says, yo soy Cuauhtémoc, orgulloso y noble líder de hombres, rey de un imperio civilizado más allá de los sueños, del gachupín Cortés, you mean the white guy, Cortés, quien también es la sangre, el reflejo de mí mismo. Yo soy el príncipe de los mayas, yo soy Nezahualcóyotl. I think that addition of the mayas there is interesting.
Yeah.
Gran líder de los chichimecas. Yo soy la espada y la llama de Cortés, el déspota. You know what I mean? So, even if he, of course, there's a recognition of mestizaje, even if he satanizes Cortés, he even says he's a part of me, even if it's a bad, yeah, as you say, they recognize him. But I think modern day discourse will see that recognition as deplorable, you know? Even the fact that you're recognizing Cortés as your ancestor,
Yeah.
they will criticize that, you know? They will say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that," you know? So I think that's one of the main difference between modern day Chicano discourse and 60s Chicano discourse. And in regards to what you say, Cholo, in regards to Vasconcelos, I think there is in Vasconcelos, his mestizophilia, like his tendency of vindicating race mixing, that in English you have like the horrible word, the horrible
That's a dirty word in English.
Yeah, miscegenation. That's like a fucking horrendous word. But mestizaje, the mestizaje of Vasconcelos is way more Hispanophilic than the mestizaje of El PRI, of the muralist, the husband of Frida, and of the Chicano movement. So I think that's an interesting division that we need to establish between Vasconcelos and them. Even if he coins the term, even if he promotes the term "la raza," which actually the funny thing about "la raza," that term is that I think it comes from a Spaniard himself. He was like a conservative minister who talked about El Día de la Raza, you know, which was previous to Vasconcelos, but even they appropriated that term. So yeah, you can continue.
Yeah. Well, that's the very first guy I mentioned at the very beginning. But yeah, like I agree, the perception of who they are is different. It's actually more anglicized. So,
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
But you can. It's more anglicized in the sense
by that exactly.
That the historical worldview is anglicized, as in the colonial period of Europe into Latin America was strictly oppressive.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I see. Yeah,
and because
exactly.
they had such limited, and because they had such limited exposure to Latin America, because obviously they're living in the United States, they just superimpose what they experience here over there.
Right. No, exactly. So, yeah, we understand that.
There is that.
Okay, so that's kind of like the early background of it, and then how did it start developing here in the United States?
Yeah, I personally like to start with like the Mexican reparation in 1929, and it goes to 1936. I mean, some of these estimates are pretty wild, but on the low end, it's 400,000 people to then it goes up to 2 million. I don't think it was 2 million myself, but the point being was the discrimination, because that's when we start getting discriminated against racially, because it didn't matter if you were an American citizen, you still got deported.
It didn't matter if you were a blue 100%.
And it's kind of interesting.
I wanted to add that it didn't matter if you were blue-eyed and 100% Spanish, you were still Mexican and you still got deported, even if you were born here. Yeah.
Well, you could have a family history of this being in this area for like 200 years. They probably still deported you. But it seems like kind of interesting that starts developing.
I'm sorry, Sholo. It just seems like there's a little bit of a delay. I don't know if it's me, you guys. Is it me that's being delayed, or is it?
From my end, everything sounds good.
Oh, okay. I don't know if Sholo, you're kind of getting my signal. Okay, we'll just keep going. But just to summarize real quick, so between 1929 and 1936, estimates vary, but somewhere between 400,000 and 2 million, basically the Mexicans that got left behind after the Mexican-American War were deported. And about 50.
And let's not forget
it's like a 50-50.
Yeah. And let's not forget that the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo actually promised, like, one of the conditions was to protect the Mexicans that stayed,
Right.
Also the so-called Operation Wetback.
No, this is before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are the Mexicans who were here. So when the Mexican-American War ended, one of the reasons why the peace was brokered was that the Americans promised to recognize the citizenship of the Mexicans. And the Americans eventually fell back on that. Does that make sense? So they weren't recognized. Yeah,
they have a history of doing that everywhere. What's up, fellas?
It's not them, you guys. It's the Jays who are in charge of them. It's not them. They're innocent in all this. Some would say that they're on the internet. But anyways, the point is between about 500,000 upwards to 2 million were deported between 1929 and 1936. Now, please keep going, Cholo.
So, what? There's a little tidbit of history that gets overlooked. Also, is that in 1930 they actually put on the census the racial category of Mexican, right? And it lasts about like 9 years, and mostly through LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, advocate for not only taking it down, but having us classified as white, so that we can have more privileges and legal protection under the law. So, and that's where you, in my opinion, start seeing a lot of Mexican Americans or whatever you want to call them identifying as white or trying to associate with the white culture so they can get that protection.
Right. Which in a
because
sense
they,
was
you
promised
know,
to them because of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo basically said, we're going to recognize you as full citizens, which in this country would mean as white. It makes sense, right?
Yeah. And of course, it doesn't stop there. 1937, first Marijuana Tax Act is passed, and they actually changed the wording from an H to a J to make it sound more Spanish. And the reason they did this was they can start deporting a lot of the Mexican workers that were in the fields. So, and of course, Reefer Madness comes out, all this and that. And it's interesting that the drug war starts with the discrimination against Mexicans, essentially. All right. But in the 1940s, there's a new level of animosity towards Mexicans because, you're in a war, you got to start rationing stuff. There was a lot of zoot suiters walking around using extra material for their clothing. And because they were so flamboyant and so unapologetic of who they were, this started causing a lot of tension between the Anglos and the Mexican community, and eventually broke out into a riot between the sailors and the zoot suiters, in the Mexican community in 1943. But also in the 1940s, the Communist Party USA also begins this activism of desegregation and opposing racism, supporting the civil rights movement various leaders. And Communist Party USA was started in, I think, 1919 or something like that. I don't remember. But I mentioned them because a lot of the Chicano activism is heavily influenced by communism, and it would be no surprise why they're so focused on racism and integration and all this and that, because they have essentially what is it now, like 50 years of influence from this party in particular. So
it makes sense too.
The zoot suiters, I certainly know the style where you use at least like 4 extra inches of fabric, right? And but did that also go into like music or any other cultural aspect to it? I'm just interested about it.
At the time, zoot suiters was just more of like a fashion trend, but it's been adopted as because it's really funny because like a zoot, if you wear a zoot suit nowadays, you're a gangster, but the guys back then, they were just being fashionable. They weren't involved in crime. They weren't involved in gangs. They just had this style, and because of the discrimination against them, they eventually get integrated into the criminal identity because you couldn't be that and be part of normal society.
I see.
So,
are you referring to the cholo style of having the what's funny is that Lana Del Rey, which is like this indie girl and so on, she's appropriated that style, and she's like the whitest shit ever.
Yeah. That style has even been seen in Japan. It's kind of a thing. It's pretty funny.
Something interesting that I just pulled up. The zoot suit was actually made illegal to wear in LA. It was banned, and apparently there's still a law on the books that still stands, actually.
Huh. Interesting. Sholo, I think there's some delay, G. Do you, just so for purposes of keeping this good, do you want to exit and come back in? Maybe there's a, well, I don't know if you're far from your modem, but just try to bounce in and out. See if that'll fix it.
All right. See what I can do.
Yeah, just try it.
So, from what Cholo said about the Mexicans that were considered white, you're practically make a case that those are the first pygmies, in a way.
Yeah, but I don't know if their motivations were to be pygmies. I think it was more a legal thing, right? Like they were pretty much just trying to hold the Americans accountable for the treaty, right? I mean, like we made peace because you said that, you know, there we would be equal under the law or whatever. So I think I don't know if it was like so much as the pygmy phenomenon as today, as more like, yo, you know, I just want to be recognized for the deal we made.
It was.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Proto pygmy. I don't know.
In regards to these aspects of LULAC is like the civil rights like activists, but at the same time they're identified as the assimilationist group. You know what I mean? So
proto pygmy strain to it then.
Yeah, I will say that we're like proto pygmies to a certain extent.
But I think what Noel said was correct, is that in this country, full citizenship status is reserved to whites. I mean, it was even written in the first immigration law, like back in like 1791. So that's always been it's always been a thing, that to have full rights, you have to be considered quote unquote white in the United States. So they were probably just like Noel said, just trying to, hold them to the deal. I can't really blame them for that, right? Like, because it's not the same thing in a way.
Right. I'm not judging them morally. It's just kind of, maybe that was the first ever instance of what we would now consider a pygmy or a proto pygmy.
I mean,
not necessarily say that they were bad for it or anything.
Yeah. The Tejanos were already the Tejanos that fought against Mexico in favor of the U.S. were pretty pygmy, to be honest.
Oh shit! Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's very
true. What did they get for fighting against? I mean, I don't blame them, right? For the Texans, the Tejanos, for trying to go free and all. But what they get, they got 3 heroes, 3 white heroes. Y'all know which ones, right? It's Alamo. All the other ones, they were all Mexican.
No, yeah. I mean, historically speaking,
you know what I mean. And then when one of them got to go get help, why do you think they didn't go? They could have helped them. It's on that, they can't deny. That's undeniable.
I'm sure some like local Tejano bourgeois, like the few bourgeois Tejanos that actually like integrated with the Anglos, could have like benefited a little bit.
Yeah, by getting the land taken, or how they benefit?
No. I'm referring to like actual like local elites that benefited to a certain extent.
I mean like actual Mexicans that were there already. How did they benefit? That's what we're talking about, not local elites.
But in regards to
how did Mexico, how did Tejanos benefit? They own the land. How did they benefit by not owning the land?
But in regards to the question of at that time, I mean, historically speaking, the idea of a Mexican unitary nation was not yet there. You know what I mean? So
no, I didn't even understand what you just said. What'd you say, bro?
That the idea of a Mexican nation, a clear defined Mexican nation, was not there yet. That's why
they were fighting for independence from Mexico. Yes, they were. There's even
what he's trying to say, Kilo, is that no. What he's trying to say, Kilo, is that the Mexican identity itself was in its infancy. It hadn't really formed. It was like it really hadn't been formed at all. See what I'm saying? It's like they shifted.
Yeah,
you mean they were still trying to find ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to
because he's
defend
trying to point at the fact. Hold on, let me just explain. So he's trying to point at the fact that you had the 300 years of New Spain, right? The viceroyalty of New Spain. And then you kind of pull the plug on that. And then they try to, put a new program running in. And, that's kind of what was the situation at that time, is like that identity hadn't formed, that myth, that ethos hadn't really formed yet.
Okay,
And
my bad.
So yeah, that's what he was trying to point at. And in that respect, you can't really blame these people perhaps for not fighting harder or for being more defensive or protective over something, because it's like they were so far from Mexico City, right? They were like in the boonies. They were way, way at the edge of the Spanish Empire. And, it's like you can imagine getting a letter like, hey, we're not the viceroyalty of New Spain anymore. And now all of a sudden we're the Republic of Mexico. And it's like, well, who the hell asked me if I wanted to do that? So it's like these people just got caught up into that.
Yeah.
But and at the same time, I'm not trying to, we can call them traitors and all of that. I don't mind. But at the same time,
no, they're not traitors. You mean that they're not traitors, bro? I mean, what's wrong with wanting to?
It's usually more. It's usually more complicated. You know what I mean?
In the end, I think it turned out all right. You know what I mean? Because look at all the government in Mexico; they're still controlled by the same people. You know what I mean? So, I love Mexico. I prefer going to Mexico, but right now I can't. Is that what you're talking about? Am I let me just listen to y'all talk. I just want to chime in on something about the Pachucos real quick, because then I'll just go back on the chat and listen and try to catch up that way. The Pachucos to this day, they even the suspenders are the Zutsus, right? Y'all call them Zutsus in LA. Started in right here in the frontera in Pachucos. That's why they call it Paso Chuco town, Chuco City, whatever. And even well, anyways, I won't get to that. But anyways, even they started as a group, as a they didn't want trouble. They were just Mexicans that they didn't want trouble.
Yeah.
And then a group of dancers. They love to dance, dress up nice, and we look good. We did. We looked very good. You know what I mean? And this was before before we got into big mixture with other races, like very very with and I don't mind these races. I love my indigenous people, even from Central America. They started coming in, and when they came in, we got a little, it's a little harder to get that look. You know what I mean? It takes a while to get a look, but I won't get into that. But the white dudes got jealous. The sailors got jealous. We had to fight them. We weren't going to win. They were allowed to come in. They were being what do you call it? They were being they were backing them up. They were even telling them, you gotta go handle your business with these fools. So nobody was holding them back. So that and the police were on their side. So you can imagine how fucking people feel. I mean, we are people that have pride. I mean, our pride is amazing. Like this, the elotero thing, with the negritos. I would see all these things on the chat, right? Like on the comments, like when they were doing it. Yeah, it's so fucked up. Y'all need to stop, to stop telling the black people to stop it. And they're like, yeah, well, they should have known. You should know where you're at. Whatever, right? And everybody's hurt. I see a lot of my people, although you guys, a lot of not you guys, but you know what I mean. My people, whichever ones are you that are in here that are Mexican and proud. It hurt me, bro. To see that lady get choked that way, it hurt me because I came up on the street where you respect another culture. Oh, you don't want to talk about that?
No. We do. We want to come back, but what we're trying to do right now is trying to give a little bit of the history of like the Chicano identity and Chicano movement.
All right.
All good.
All
It's
right.
all
Let
good.
me
Cholo
get on the
talk, bro.
chat. That's
Cholo
why I
talk.
said,
But I mean,
let me get on the chat.
but you're
I'll
you're
listen
part
to
of
you,
that.
then I'll jump in.
When you talk
Cholo
about the
No,
talk,
but
bro.
Yeah.
you're more than
Okay.
welcome to be honest, because I think the audience would benefit from some of your experience. But Sholo is gonna walk us through a little bit of the history and the development and some of the
Oh,
personalities,
that's what's up. That's what's up.
and
All
then
right.
we're gonna open it up, and then we're gonna open up into a wider discussion.
Okay.
But
All right. See, this
okay,
is more organized. I'm not used to these kind of chats, dog. So take
all
that
good.
in, guys. But yeah, I appreciate it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna go to the chat, bro, and just listen to you.
And feel free
All
to
right.
hop back in if you want.
Yeah,
Feel
I
free to
will.
hop.
Yeah, I will. All right. All right. Thank
Okay,
you all. I'll be here.
dale. Okay, Sholo, you're back. I think is the delay fixed now? It doesn't seem like it is.
No, it doesn't
Sholo,
seem like it.
Sholo, you there, buddy?
I think it got worse.
Oh man.
Like 2 days later, hey guys, what's up?
Yeah, I felt it like that. But
While we were
Cholo.
talking on the fashion point, while we're waiting for Cholo,
the
all
Pocho,
right, the my experience with Chicano fashion has to do with the 90s, right? Because that's my
Yeah.
generation. So the blood in, blood out, Dickies, Cortez, you got the flannel shirt with the one button tied, at the neck,
The
the
Lokes,
collar. Yeah, dude.
little hairnet.
Back in the day when we was in middle school, we used to tag our belts, those cholo belts, with old English lettering and whiteout. So we would have the stencils, and we would tag up our book bags.
In New York?
In the belt, yeah, because there was like a small group of us, Mexicanos, in where I'm at in Westchester, and we would all be banda together, right? So our beef was always with the morenitos, with the negritos, and we would always be fighting with them, and we would always be like getting the lowrider magazines and like taking our cues from from the Southwest. So we had people from Sur 13 and everything over here, and La Raza was like a big gang at the time here, and so the cops would always follow us, bro. We would roll deep, man. We would take up blocks and like all roll together, dude. It was cool.
You guys weren't wearing poofy jackets?
Nah, man. I didn't do the bubble jacket thing,
East Coast.
That is a thing though, the East Coast, but
Yeah, I know.
that wasn't my East Coast experience.
actually, I've never. So I always have lived in Miami, and when I went to New York, I never understood like the poofy jacket stuff with the Yankees hat. I never understood that until like a few days ago.
Nigga, have you been here in the wintertime? It's fucking cold. That's why, yo.
But I've been to upstate New York though, which is colder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably more of a city thing,
I'm more of a North Face guy and Tim's myself,
Yeah.
Right.
And
I
don't know about like the New York thing about the year. I don't understand that. Like, there's people. Yeah. People scream like they're, and I'm always wondering like, what's the meaning behind that?
Oh, Maoite. Like,
because you're not black enough, Haniel. I mean, I'm just kidding, bro.
Sholo, slow it down.
You guys, I'm trying to get back a little bit here. Sholo, are you back, buddy? Do we have are we good now?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, he responded quickly. Yeah, it looks good.
If you can hear me, say Apple.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can hear you say Apple, but it's a little fuzzy on my end. But I mean, if it works for you guys, it works for you guys.
It seems better.
It seems
Yeah, I
better.
can hear
Okay.
them. No problem.
There might just be a slight delay, but it's okay. We'll work around it. So let's take it back. So we got a little bit of the Suit riots. We got a little bit of the Mexican American War. We got a little bit about LULAC and Vasconcelos and all these concepts. And now we're kind of getting a little bit closer to this point in history. Tell us a little bit about I guess where that term first was used, and a little bit about the ideology. So I think the last point you made for us. I'm sorry. The last point you made for us was that there was kind of a lot of communists involved, or there was some kind of communist influence from the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, that's because the communists, and what they did was that they couldn't use the economic warfare that they had in, like, say, Russia. So they changed it around, and because Anglos are the ones typically at the top, and they changed out the words and they replaced it and made it racialized, just so, because I mean, communism is really just a divide and conquer strategy where you kill off your own elites so they can come in and take over. So, I mean, that's. And I mean, if you just go to Chicano Park and see how many communist murals are over there, it's just like, oh, okay, well, I get you. I'm a personal fan of Emiliano Zapata myself, but at the same time, you can't adhere to that ideology too hard.
Right. It's more like a.
So Cholo, so that kind of led to the inevitability of this kind of Chicanx sort of faction. Because if it was that infiltrated, it was going to happen eventually.
Yeah, well, it was going to happen eventually because from the very beginning, they were already putting in work.
Right. But there were Chicano, anti-communist Chicano. So I'm thinking about Cesar Chavez, right? So.
Not really.
You think Cesar Chavez was
He was traditional, like, Marxist or like leftist in a way, not like modern.
I don't think he was
postmodern.
Like Nazbol or proto Nazbol.
Okay.
Proto Nazbol.
All right. Well, I'm gonna skip ahead real quick. All right.
Yeah. Sure.
Cesar Chavez starts his political career in 1952 by joining Community Services Organization, a creation of Saul Alinsky, spending the next 10 years registering people to vote, voter drives, and advocating against racial discrimination. So, yeah, not really.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, what's to be expected?
No, that's interesting, though, because from what I've read is that people, like modern day discourse, is that they're usually, like, the most progressive ones are usually very anti Cesar Chavez.
Right, and we'll dig into that. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sholo.
just a quick comment before, like, we, and that the reason they were against Cesar Chavez is because he would actually call border patrol on the illegals that were being used by the corporations, because they're on strike and the strike's not effective if they can just bring in people and get back to work. So that's part of the reason why they're against him.
And also probably because he was very informed by his religious views in regards to his praxis.
Well, to be fair, Mexican communism is different than most traditional communism, especially since we won La Guerra Cristera. So there's more Christian influence in the communism from Mexico in general. So, and there's also the old vanguard versus the new vanguard, where every newer generation of these revolutionaries just gets worse and worse.
Right.
So
that always seems to happen. Why don't you tell us a little bit about in the 50s how people started to share Vasconcelos' book?
Yeah. Okay. So roughly around the 50s. There's not too much information on it, but they start sharing La Raza Cósmica and they start formulating these ideas and their relationship to American culture, institution, and political influence, And this, instead of just staying as La Raza Cósmica, it develops into La Raza Mexicana. So if a lot of Chicanos, when they're saying, La Raza, they're not saying La Raza Cósmica in the original sense, or even in the sense before that, La Raza Española. They're much more nationalistic in the racial sense. So, but some of the key events that you kind of have to take note of when it comes to protesting is, of course, La Huelga, which starts in 1965, La Tierra Amarilla courthouse raid in 1967, the East LA blowouts, and 1970 was when they started Chicano Park.
What was La Huelga?
But
can you go through those events a little bit? Those individual events, can you go through those real quick? What were they?
Okay. La Huelga was pretty much the protesting of the use of pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides in agriculture, because my grandmother was actually part of that movement. And what would happen is that they'll be working in the fields, and right when they're working in the fields, the crop duster will just come in over them and just start spraying the entire fields while they were in it. And a lot of people getting sick and dying and going to the hospital. And yeah, it was really bad. So that's what that was about. And plus, some of it had to do with the way they were being paid and, all that other stuff.
Sure.
La Tierra Amarilla courthouse raid is with Corky Gonzalez. No. Tejerina. Where pretty much he's fighting for the land grants of New Mexicans. And they actually go into the courthouse and get into a shootout, right? And shoot one of the jailhouse guards, and sheriff deputy gets injured and they flee. So and of course they call the National Guard on him and get all the agencies after them, and they couldn't catch him. He actually had to turn himself in after a while. But in my opinion, what really hurt us the most was the East LA blowouts, right? Because the East LA blowouts was in protest of the education system that we were being put into. And a lot of the education we were getting was trade skills, mechanic, a carpenter, stuff like that. And we'll just say some I don't have the names, but there's some communist activists and some Puerto Ricans that come in and convince them to start protesting, and they go walk out. All the Mexican students walk out the schools, and they pretty much shut those programs down. And man, we could use some of those trade skills now. I'm telling you.
And now you have Chicanos to.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Yes. And how exactly they're supposed to develop a functioning nation without trade skills is beyond me. So, but anyways, basically the three key feet. What was that?
No, I was saying that seemed to have set us back, if anything.
Anyways, basically the three. Oh yeah, I agreed. That's why I'm not a reactionary. I'm like whatever. But moving on, the three main people that you're going to have to really know about is Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez, Reyes Lopez Tejerina, and Cesar Chavez. The reason they're important because they're the ones that organized the first Chicano Youth Conference in 1969.
Hold on,
And
Cholo,
they
I think
introduced El Plan Espíritu Aztlán, which outlines the framework of rebellion and resistance against America.
Can you hear me, buddy? It looks like you went out a little bit. So the three figures to understand here are Rodolfo Corky González, Reyes López Tijerina, and César Chávez.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason they're important is because they start the first Chicano Youth Conference in '69. Okay, and that's when they introduced Corky's El Plan Espiritual de Aztlán, which is an outline of resistance in America, and advocating for economic independence. Starting your own schools. Reconquering the Southwest. That's where that the idea of Aztlán, taking back the Southwest comes from. And if anybody's listening, y'all know Spanish, you can actually go listen to it. There's only like one speaker that speaks in English, I think. So, and I like to make a difference between Chicano identity and identity. Chicano identity is more of a nationalistic identity based on race, a racial kinship, where Mexican identity still has the imperial, incorporating multiple nations within it. So, but what were you going to say?
No, I was saying, so that Plan Espiritual de Aztlán, that's an audio we can listen to on YouTube, you're saying?
Yeah, you can listen to the Chicano Youth Conference on YouTube. You can just look it up.
Dope. Okay, cool. We're going to check that out.
It's like a manifesto.
Are you familiar with that? Have you listened to it, Hanyan?
Yeah, partially. Some parts of it. But I think the idea of Aztlán is low key, like is Hispanista in nature, which is ironic, but it is, But we can talk about that later.
It's like putting a indigenista brand over a Hispanista product, it seems to me.
Pretty much. It's just like, you can have like superficially, you can have all the native imagery, but behind that is pure Hispanismo.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll dig into that. Okay, keep going for us here, Cholo.
If you read El Plan Espiritual de Aztlán, it actually advocates for teaching to do criminal acts against the system. And if you know about anything about Mexican gangs or Chicano gangs, pretty much all their lingo is old school Chicano activism. Like, for example, SUR is an acronym for Southern United Raza. And of course the Norteños, they got their own thing, which I don't know too much about. But the only ones that still adheres to some semblance of what it means to be Chicano and resistance to what it assimilating into America.
Hold on, guys. Are you
the early Chicanos?
I'm not getting a lot of what he's saying. He's breaking up real hard, and I think this is really important. You're breaking up really bad, but what you're saying is really important. But there's gaps where we're missing some of it. So were you saying that like Sur is like Southern United Raza and what else? The Norteños, and can you just go over that bit a little bit again?
Yeah. Well, I don't know too much about the Norteños because I'm in Arizona, so they got stuff that I don't know too much about, but they still have their gang tattoos. But basically, the Norteños are like from the Salinas rural area, farm workers mostly, and the Sureños were from Los Angeles. But like I was trying to say is that they're really kind of the last of the Chicanos, because if you look at what they believe and what they're advocating for, that's old school Chicano. I mean, you still got Sureños right now advocating for Aslan. So,
as if it was 1993 still.
And it's just kind of interesting how history plays. Yeah.
You're going to see.
Yeah,
You're
pretty
going
much.
to, in 2030, you're going to see. You're going to see Sureños on
As all
Norteño.
the legit people became.
Hold on, there's an issue. Sholo, but it's just it seems to be a bad issue. Are you on Wi-Fi or are you on your cell phone or on a laptop? What are you using to access this stream? You there, buddy? No. Are you using a laptop or a cell phone? We can't hear him, huh? Can you guys hear him?
No, I'm having the same problems. But
let me just send him a DM. If he's on a laptop, Cholo, if you can hear me, if you're on your laptop, maybe the Wi-Fi is just not being. Yeah, are you on your laptop or a cell phone, G?
Well, I was going to say if the Norteños or Sureños are having the Aztlán thing, probably when they're like in 20 years from now, they're going to start saying Latinx and going against mestizaje, you know?
Quién sabe.
Oh yeah, it's already kind of there, to be honest.
You think so?
Yeah. Let me send him a DM.
Mm-hmm.
And just try to get this thing troubleshooted, man. It sucks because he's going over a lot of really important stuff, but we can't hear him very well.
Yeah. He mentioned something interesting about how La Raza had like this transition from being extremely from being more like Raza Cósmica to being merely a nationalist Mexican stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Vasconcelos, when he talked about La Raza, he never envisioned like the subjects that he was referring to. It was mainly Latin American or Hispanic America, and not merely Mexico. You know.
Yeah.
You can see that on the shield for Una, because it has both continents and the condor and the eagle.
Exactly, like a unity between the Andes.
Is dope.
Yeah, the unity between the Andes and the.
Vasconcelos made that logo.
No, Vasconcelos was actually a very interesting guy, and he's getting demonized by everyone right now.
We're
in Latin American studies.
Yeah.
The UNAM social sciences is just a disgrace. Like what they've done to that university is just, it's terrible, man. I've actually been there once. So
we'll make. Hold on, Sholo. It seems like you're back, buddy. Can you hear us?
Yeah, well, I can hear you guys.
Are you using your computer or your cell phone?
Well, I don't have a freaking computer, so.
Okay. You're using your cell phone.
Yeah.
And so, are you using Wi-Fi or your cell phone signal?
Wi-Fi, and I'm right next to the modem.
I don't want you to get cancer now. It seems like it might work better, dog, if you just use your cell phone signal. Have you tried that? Try using your cell phone service.
How's it going?
Okay, let me know if you're on your cell phone now. Can you say Apple when you hear me?
Yo.
Can you say manzana when you hear me?
Yeah, no, the cell phone signal is worse.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go back to your Wi-Fi.
I think that the thing is that when he comes, it gets better, but then as time progresses, it gets worse.
Let's try this. Maybe one or two of you guys wouldn't mind getting out. It might make his run a little bit. And then when we're done going through this, we'll open it back up, of course, to everybody in the audience as well.
It's getting a bit late here, so I gotta. Hey Cholo, but thank you very much for coming into the stream, man. Really interesting knowledge, and see you guys later, man.
All right, take care. God bless.
Later, homie.
Let's see there. Can you hear us now, Cholo?
Yeah. Well, I can hear you. It's talking to you is the problem.
Oh, you sound way better now, dude. So let's keep going. Okay, so take us where you were at last.
Pretty much, kind of what I see is that, like I was saying, that the Cholos are kind of like preserved what it means to be Chicano, while the legit people that keep going to the universities become the Latinx or Latinx or whatever you want to call them. But it's different how they identify themselves, right? Because there's a split. There's one side that decides, well, I'm going to be a victim, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while the Cholos are more of like, I'm a conqueror, I'm a warrior, I'm a fighter, I'm a soldier type identity. So it's two different cultures that come from the original Chicano movement.
Yeah.
Wait, so you have the Cholo, which is the warrior, and who's more of the limp-wristed camp?
The academics.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But that's pretty much the general rundown. Because after that, you just kind of get into the bios of the three main influencers. Because after the 1980s, it just drops off. And it's just after the three original leaders get out of it, it just crashes and burns.
Okay, why don't we talk about Corky? Tell us a little bit about him.
Corky is a professional boxer, poet that turns political activist. He's actually got an interesting boxing career. He's 65, 9-1, but he retired from boxing in 1955. So decides to run for a Colorado state representative in 1960. Unsuccessful. Decides to go work on the JFK campaign and successfully registers more Mexican Americans than any other point in Colorado's history. Runs it for mayor in 67, but is defeated. He later, before his run for mayor, he actually creates the Crusade for Justice to advocate for Chicano nationalism and social change. But at the same time, in 67, he writes the poem Yo Soy Joaquin, which goes on to be one of the most influential literature poems in Chicano culture. And, like we were mentioning earlier, he's got more of like an anglicized worldview of it, and trying to come to terms with being the conqueror and the victim at the same time.
Right. So he's kind of he's been a little bit infected by the Black legend. What you're saying?
Yeah.
Got
it. He's the one that organizes the Chicano conference. It wouldn't have happened without him. But in 73, the headquarters for the Crusade for Justice gets raided, and there's actually a guy that gets killed. His name's Luis Jr. Martinez, and in that same year, one of their buildings gets destroyed by an explosion. So, and that's kind of like the end of his political career. He doesn't really do anything after that.
And who destroyed the building, or who raided it?
The police raided their building, but I couldn't find any information of how the explosion happened. So it could have just been a coincidence, quote unquote.
Yeah, of course.
But one of the reasons I outlined his boxing career is because, you know, two of the three guys, they got a history in either, like, say, being a boxer, or like with Cesar Chavez, served in the Navy during World War II. And it's kind of interesting that you got to understand that having some of that martial discipline really does affect your ability to do activism and to go out there, because you learn how to organize and get into formation and you know, lead people. Where, you know, Corky was kind of just well, he was just a really good boxer. But I don't know if you guys got any comments on him.
No, I mean, a Mexican boxer. Who would have ever heard of that?
So he was the one who introduced the Aztlan thing.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, he was.
Where did he get that notion from? Because, like, I wonder, you know.
Basically, what was happening, from what I can recall, is that they were trying to understand the origins of the Mexica, or what they call Aztecs. And there's a mythological legend that, you know, they came from somewhere northwest of Mexico City. Supposedly they came out of a hole in the ground and blah blah blah, but they assumed that it was the desert Southwest, and they kind of appropriated this to be like their ancestral homeland. So it's like a indigenous identity starting to creep into.
Let's be real, guys. Aztlan was a myth constructed by natives to tell the Spaniards so they can leave their lands to go up north, pretty much.
Expand on that a little bit.
So Aztlan, actually, the idea of Aztlan, there's also, like, you know, the Nahuatl origin story and all of that, but there wasn't a real, like, geographical presence, you know. So the Nahuatl people said that they were not originally from the Mexican Valley, but the idea of Aztlan wasn't exactly a clear geographical location. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it was the Spaniards who.
There's actually a story of one.
Yeah, you can talk, Cholo.
Yeah, well, there was actually a story of a shaman that supposedly went back to Aztlan, but the way he got there was he turned into a bird. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. Exactly.
That's what I'm referring to. But the idea of like Aztlan being in the north, you know, which in the American Southwest in this case, is pretty much a construction of the Spaniards. So they, you know. So that's the interesting. It's just that Aztlan is pretty much the same limits that New Spain had. Aztlan is also a reconstruction of the myth by the Spaniards, and Aztlan is also the idea that the native tribes is speaking and the promotion of the Aztec language of Nahuatl in
But I
the
say something.
Mexican Southwest was promoted by the Spaniards, pretty much.
No,
So
real quick. It could see you're doing a lot of stuttery, bro, because you don't know what you're saying, bro. They were nomads and they came from the north. Aslan is it was deep in the north, not like the north, like hey over there. No, like way over, like north, like in a hole in the north. That place, whether you believe in it or not, it's uh it's said by many people, by many cultures, by everybody that it's actually like there's a civilization that's far advanced, more advanced than anything we know, and it proved to be right when I believe his name was Byrd, that the admiral at World War II when he followed the Nazis over there, and they were forced to come back and let the Nazis get away. The not soldiers. I'm talking about the intelligent motherfuckers. So
yeah,
anyways,
but I'm not
so
referring to.
that's where I'm just saying that's where the Aztecs came from. They were nomads, and that's where they came from. They
Yeah,
called it
but I'm not
Chihuahua.
saying the.
Ground.
The Aztecs came from Hyperborea, son. We was the real Hyperboreans.
I'm not saying that Aztlan.
Where
What I'm simply saying that Aztlan being in the American Southwest is not.
Yeah, Aslan is not here. Aslan is over there somewhere in the north.
in the other
Like
dimension.
Yeah, but they didn't. When you read like now literature and all of their myths, Aztlan do not have a specific geographical location. You know,
Well, you might as well
it's,
just look for Atlantis, honestly.
yeah, it's like north, but it's not on a specific location.
It's a different.
it's a place that it's because the thing is if you don't use like your mind, expand your mind outside of like what you believe is real. Like if I don't see it, I don't believe it. You
You're
know,
gonna have some
they came from the north, deep in the north. They explained what it was like, but it to people it sounded like you know okay like you look you see the you know the stories that the zoos and all that they say that's all like you know like stories that they're fake, you know, fairy tales, whatever. Nobody passes on fairy tales, like fake ass bullshit. Well, anyways, they did come from the north. They were nomads. They traveled, you know, through the snow. They traveled through America. They got here.
You guys think I'm LARPing, but that sounds a lot like Hyperborea, bro. I mean, wouldn't it be interesting that if, like, you know, the ancient Aztecs and the ancient Europeans, all the ancient races had some, you know, actual similar origin, and like after the flood and all that they dispersed.
Exactly.
You know.
That's where they went. That's where they went to. They was said that they went to the north, especially the Vikings, the giants, that they're still there.
Well, here on the screen, I'm sharing a couple maps. So, I mean, regardless from the mythology and all that, most, you know, scientists, scholars, historians agree that the Aztecs themselves came from, you know, way north of the Mexican Valley. If you follow the diffusion of the Uto-Aztecan or the Uto-Nahua language family, it does seem that the genesis of it seems to be somewhere around Arizona, Utah, Nevada. And then it seems to have gone all the way down to what would be the northern edge of modern day Costa Rica. And that's a huge, huge swath of land. And of course, this is a language family, so it's various ethnicities. But, you know, we can compare that map essentially coincidentally to what was the viceroyalty of New Spain. It spans that distance pretty much spot on. And then, of course, if we look at the Toltecs, which were also a Nahua people, you know, that predated the Aztecs significantly, they seem to have spread almost. Now, obviously, they didn't go as far north, but they still kind of kept that southern half of what we could, let's just call Nahualia, if you wanted to name them something. But the point that I kind of want to highlight here is that, it's kind of interesting coincidence, right? That, the Viceroyalty of New Spain has some kind of precedent to it even before the Spanish came. Of course, though, it was coalesced and cemented and actually integrated once the Spanish came and the Viceroyalty was established. And I think the point that Carlos was making, that when the Spanish and the Nahuals of Central Mexico, mixed and joined, when they made their peace, and they moved on to the next page of history. Obviously, a huge chunk of the settler and fighting force spoke Nahua, and it was promoted that language be spoken up here as the Viceroyalty was growing towards the north. And they wanted to, colonize or settle this area, which of course wasn't as densely populated or urbanized as, the heartland of Mesoamerica. But okay, let's keep going a bit here. So we got that. I think I'm comfortable on the Aslan part. You want to keep going onto the next figurehead?
I just add one thing real quick. They say that the Aztecs, Aslan, was very advanced. Obviously, if they're this little tribe called Mexicas, or just a little tribe, they got there. They had all these medicines. They had the technology to build pyramids. So I'm just saying, someone taught them all this. Where are the pyramids from Aslan in Arizona? You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But okay. I mean, to each their own. We can discuss that.
We'll save that for another episode. I think that's an interesting subject that I think we all kind of have been fascinated with. Yeah. We all wish we understood that history much better. But yeah, let's keep going here. So we understand Corky. So Corky was the first one to kind of bring this Aslan concept back. He wrote Yo Soy Joaquin, which was an important I guess piece of literature around Chicano nationalism. He was a boxer. He runs for mayor but got defeated. What was the other highlight? He got his office building bombed and he decided to tap out, and he's like, I'm not doing this shit no more. Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool. So take us on to Cesar Chavez now.
Cesar Chavez, he's supposedly a Yuma-born native. He's yeah, apparently.
Dope.
Yeah. His early life's not too impressive. I mean, he's just an agricultural laborer. Joins the Navy in World War II, but like I mentioned earlier, he joins Community Services Organization in 1952, and actually becomes the general director in 1958. In 1962, he resigns from the CSO to pursue other ventures, turning down an offer by President Kennedy to head the Peace Corps for part of Latin America, choosing instead to live a life of poverty, making $5 a week as a farm laborer.
Wow.
Right. I didn't really find information on this, but he founds the National Farm Workers Association when it started. He begins the 5-year boycott of grapes in La Huelga in 1965, protesting the unsafe practices of herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, all that stuff, the original organic movement. And that protest actually spans all of the United States, by the way. And 1966, he starts doing a merger with American Federation Labor Congress of Industrial Organizations to find the United Farm Workers Union, in which, somewhere along that period of 1966, 1971, I couldn't find the information too much on that. But in the 1960s, it's kind of interesting because he gets into a lot of clashes with the Teamsters that doesn't get resolved into 77. You know, and of course he participates in the 69 Youth Conference, Chicano Youth Conference, and he dies in 93, but is given the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 94, and his wife accepts it on his behalf. So that's pretty much like a quick rundown
something
on.
when you're done?
Yeah, I'm finished. What's up?
Do you know anything about any other heroes or any other influences that we've had besides Cesar Chavez? Like, do you know anything about not only Murrieta, but like like the ones that fought, they were taking our lands and they were stricken from the books, not to put them in history, not to speak of them here in America. If you find it, you'll Google it, but you won't find everything, or who knows? I don't know. But the ones that wore the white like sheets on their head, and I'm not talking about the Ku Klux Klan here in New Mexico, and they started like they were badass. I mean, so badass that Mexico, I mean that America made it against the law to speak of them. Period. Like they did Pancho Villa strike. You know what I mean? They did.
Are you talking about the camisas dorados? Or
yeah, I can't remember their name, but I know I remember I got into like reading about them a long time ago. But yeah, they were like they fought back. We took lands because they were killing us. They were taking our lands. Like that's all they had to do. After the Guadalupe Treaty, they were doing shit like that. But
that sounds like
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What were you saying, Kilo?
That sounds like
no, it's because my abuelito, my grandpa, he would like tell me a lot about all that, but I never found a lot about them. Like that's why I was asking him.
So there's a group called Revolutionary Mexicanist Action, and they're known as the Gold Shirts or Camisas Doradas, and they were in the 30s. Basically, Mexican nationalism, right wing, anti-communist.
Oh no! This was way before this century.
He's talking right after. He's basically talking about guerrillas after the Mexican American War. And to be honest, I've heard. Right. I've heard, but it's like you only hear it from distance. It's like this history seems to have been covered up a lot. All you really do see is like the lynchings afterwards, and they basically they frame these guys as bandits, but really they were just trying to hold on to the land that they were promised that they would be able to hold on to.
Yeah. They fought back and they got their lands. But it was covered up. Like they put a lot of propaganda bullshit, make them look stupid, make them look like evil criminals when they weren't. They weren't. If you were to hear like it's true history, I don't know why the documentaries I saw as a kid they're not around no more. It's fucked up.
We'll put it on the list of something to investigate, and we'll try to get you some history. We know some.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering if he knew. If he didn't, it was like a yes or no thing.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to touch on Cesar Chavez real quick because from what I've heard is that Cesar Chavez was like a pretty devout Catholic. Is that correct? From what you know?
No, I think it was some type of Protestant or something because he goes and does his own thing and kind of starts his own cult.
Oh, really?
So, but when they were doing the march, when they were doing the march from Imperial Valley to the capital of California, they did do it under La Virgen de Guadalupe. So they did do that. If anything, he's kind of like an ecumenist figure.
Okay. Makes more sense.
Okay. I mean, he didn't have, he even had a interview with the Pope.
Really?
Yes, with
What pope was that?
Yes.
Well, it was. I think it was Paul the. It was this very controversial pope. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was like
Paul the
Pablo
Sixth.
II, Juan Pablo I.
no,
No.
Paul
no,
the
not
Sixth.
ningún Pablo.
No.
Yes, Paul the Sixth. Yeah, it was with Paul the Sixth.
Mm.
So, but he had a interview with him, and he was. I think he had a strong connection with Catholicism, especially with But yeah, he was a strong Catholic. I will say a devout one. With I guess like few ecumenic tendencies there. I don't know, but that comes mainly from the folk aspects of his Catholicism.
Well, I'm sure culturally. I mean, if you even look at characters like Geronimo, his family was Catholicized, and we can save that for another episode. But I just wanted to touch on, whether I mean, I think from this era, a lot of these guys were very like ecumenical. Don't we go into the next figurehead, Xolo, which I think was probably the most interesting one for me personally. I think Reyes Lopez Tijerina is fucking fascinating. This guy's badass on so many levels.
Yeah. He's definitely interesting. A rebel from the beginning to the very end.
Like a real one, not like a photo op one.
Yeah. No, he was a real rebel. Tenerido was born into a cotton farming family. Apparently, as a kid, he experienced his grandfather nearly lynched by the Texas Rangers. All right. Great Depression hits. Their family loses a lot of money because of the cotton prices dropping, and he starts to study the Bible at 18. And in 44, attends the Assembly of God Bible Institute and gets ordained to become a Pentecostal minister. And of course, he does his missionary work for I don't know, like 12 years. In 1956, he starts a commune of followers in southern Arizona calling themselves Los Bravos, or Heralds of Peace. And supposedly they start experiencing racial discrimination, and the authorities refuse to investigate it. And also, just like as an insight, I included this into like his way of thinking of how he interpreted the Bible. His daughter is born, and he names her Ira de Allah, Wrath of God. And he kind of lives up to that interpretation of a wrathful God throughout his life. After his daughter's birth, he goes to New Mexico, where he starts learning about land grants, grazing rights that affect the Mexican community, further studying the laws of the Indies and Treaty of the Guadalupe Hidalgo in Mexico. In 57, he begins experiencing troubles with the law, where he is charged with theft of a six-wheel trailer and is acquitted. A month later, he is charged with theft of hardware and accused him of being a getaway driver for his brother from Pinal County Jail. He leaves the courthouse during his hearing, resulting in him becoming a fugitive from justice. Fleeing with his followers to the abandoned city of Gobernador, New Mexico, they take refuge in one of the churches, and he later meets Don Manuel Trujillo, claiming that he was the best teacher on land grants. They start experiencing some difficulties, so he goes back to Arizona to find work, and gets arrested and spends a few months in jail, and then arrested again for trying to free his brother, where he'll spend the next 7 years as a fugitive from justice. Right. 1957 takes a trip to Guadalajara to find original land grants, only to discover they were missing because a white man took them to be converted to micro.
To be converted into what?
He appeals to President Eisenhower and is declined. Turns to Presidente microfilm.
Oh, got it.
You get that?
Yeah. So,
all right.
Wait, I'm sorry. I lost the path that we were on. So, what got destroyed and turned into microfilm? Oh, wait. Why are you trying to come into the stream again, dude?
Wait, Rancho, look at the quote of the one of the quotes of
Cholo, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Carlos. What were you gonna say? No, it seems like you went out and you came back in. But Carlos was gonna share a quote real quick. What was the quote?
It is a long one, but it's from Tijerina. I was searching on his Wikipedia page, and he said that I believe the origins of the Anglo psychopathy began when the English were excluded from the Treaty of Tordesillas. You know, I sent that on the private chat. It's an amazing quote.
Yeah, no, it was pretty impressive. I mean, he Sholo's gonna go into it in a second here. You know, he studied the leyes de las Indias and the laws of New Spain to try to build up his case to try to defend these New Mexicans land grants that they were denied. And if you see this guy, I mean, look at his face. He's like the perfect mestizo. Like you cannot run away from the Spaniard in his face, you know. And at the same time, you see his indigenous features. Pretty badass dude. But
it's interesting because he seems to be Protestant, but at the same time, it was at the same time like the quote that I just sent you. He was saying like, it was at this time that the Anglo not only rejected the legitimate body of the era, which is the Catholic Church, but also the religion that went against them. The Anglo, without respect for authority and religion, and to get back into the colonization game, legalized piracy. They had to operate outside the law to become the law. Over the last 400 years, the Anglo complex of psychopathy has worsened. Worsened.
No worry.
His conscience tortures him, and his thinking grows demented for having violated his own religion, his own law, and humanity. Wow, this guy was extreme.
Damn, he was Anglo pilled. Huh? Look at him, dude. We're not the only crazy ones here. This
guy, he sounds like a Spaniard from the 17th century or something.
He really does, dude. Like a Spanish admiral with the Royal Navy. This guy's pretty based. Okay, Xolo, you're back. So the last point that I had that I didn't hear you correctly was about something got destroyed and turned into microfilm. Can you take us back there?
Yeah. He goes to Guadalajara to find the original land grants, and he finds that a white person took them to be converted to microfilm, and they were never returned. Right.
Oh
so
shit! Wait.
He appeals to President.
Wait. So he goes to Guadalajara to try to find the documents from New Spain that back up these New Mexicans' land rights, and between then, some white guy from the United States came to Guadalajara, got the documents to supposedly turn them into microfilm, and they disappeared.
Yep.
Holy shit, dude. I wonder if that white guy went to Yale. I wonder if he went to Yale.
Yeah. And there's another part you'll like later on too. But
can you turn the Chicano off?
What'd you say?
What was that?
Oh, no, never mind. Go ahead, G. Keep going.
He appeals to President Eisenhower and is declined. He then turns to President Adolfo Lopez Mateos to gather more documents, only to have them stolen. All right. So, I mean, once is coincidence, or whatever they say, but to have his own documents stolen while he's in Mexico is kind of suspicious.
Yeah, totally.
1961.
There was another Yale boy.
Yeah. 1961, he meets Mexican General Lozano Cordanas, who claims in order to win, there would be bloodshed. So you can see where he gets some of his militancy from.
Right.
In 62 to 63, he forms La Alianza Federal de Mercedes, where they send letters to both U.S. and the Mexican governments, reminding them of their land grant obligations. In 1965, he starts the Voice for Justice radio program, which becomes a television program. He organizes a march in 66, Albuquerque to Santa Fe, and is met by hostility and gunfire from groups of white people, taking a letter to the governor to look into the land grant problems. After months of failed diplomacy, they take control of an amphitheater, claiming it was part of San Joaquin del Rio de Gama land grant, and declared themselves a sovereign nation. They turned themselves in after 5 days of occupation.
So they occupied an actual federal building.
Yeah. All right. And in 67, he does the courthouse raid, which we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that this is where he gets the nickname King Tiger by the media, because of the effect he had on New Mexico. But he represents himself in court and is acquitted of all 54 charges. And pretty much what he did is he well, pretty much what he did is that he starts in questioning the sheriff himself, and he starts just grilling the guy, and eventually he gets him to admit in open court that he doesn't hold him responsible for anything that happened. He turns to the judge and says, "You see, Your Honor, I'm not guilty," and that's how he gets acquitted. So
nice. So this guy defended himself in court. I mean, that's a hard thing. This guy's very intelligent, as we can see. And ballsy.
I'm reading his biography, and he reconverted to Catholicism.
I've read that too.
Which is even better, which makes his even better. I didn't know about this guy. Thank you.
Yeah, this was the guy where I was like, oh, okay, we got to really, because again, everyone has these stereotypes about Chicanos. And, for me growing up in LA, like Chicano means like there was a generation. It was like, if you were the Mexicans who were here during the 70s, then you were Chicano. Like Pochos and everyone who came after the 70s or 80s, like you weren't Chicano. It was like those guys were Chicanos. It was just that generation. But when I heard this guy's biography, I was like, oh shit, these people, this is base. I thought, a lot of people kind of poo-poo the Chicano identity, but this guy was on point.
You know what's interesting? I think if I mention this figure to persons like Ivan Velez and the son of Gustavo Bueno, they'll be interested in this figure.
Yeah. Let's redeem Reyes Tijerina. But please continue.
No. He should be known. Yeah, among the Hispanic world.
Totally. I think from this century, he's definitely in the top 10, top 5. Like this guy's definitely impressive. I mean, all the law that this guy taught himself, and then the the gun battles and invading or raiding federal buildings and such. I mean, this is a quite impressive character, and it's amazing that we've never heard of him. I've heard, of course, of Cesar Chavez. We all have. I think most people have heard of Corky as well, but I don't think I've never heard of this guy. I don't remember ever hearing this guy's name in school or anything like that. And I understand why.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Jesus. Sorry. I didn't know what's going on. I'm new to all this crap.
Marco, you're from New Mexico? Real quick, let me introduce
Well, I'm
you.
not from New Mexico, but that's kind of where I go back to my roots and stuff like that. I'm in Southern Colorado.
Uh-huh.
It's the same culture, I guess you could say. So I just say Nuevo Mexicano.
Claro, claro. So your ancestors were the New Mexicans who've been there from the 1600s, essentially.
As far as I know, not on my dad's side, but my mom's side. My dad, he I have an Irish last name.
Sure.
But it's all, I just say Hispanismo.
Yeah. No, well, it's interesting to meet somebody from New Mexico, because I think New Mexico has been the one territory in all of Hispanoamerica that has maintained its Hispanicity the best, or at least the most honestly, the most vigorously out of any country in Hispanoamerica. New Mexico has been that territory.
Yeah, without being ashamed of it, you know.
At all. Yeah, it's like it's the one spot that never fell for the black legend.
Yeah, it's like unapologetical. But right now it's changing though.
Yeah, it is. It's like and it's like from the Indios for no reason. Like they just want to, like they were taking down that Juan de Oñate statue, and it's like, come on, we're one. I see Indians and Spanish as one now.
Well, those Indios who were trying to take down that statue were actually white people.
I know. You look at the pictures.
It was a Mexican guy who shot the white guy, stopping that from happening. So, it wasn't a Jewish guy. It was a white guy trying to take down this, who tried to attack him with a skateboard.
What is it with the Jews? I don't get that.
It's a long story. We'll save it for another time.
It goes back to the foot of the cross.
I'm not very good with verse.
How much time you got? How much time?
Well, I mean, in this particular aspect, a lot of Anglos like to escape, like to deviate their problems and their own demonic tendencies towards the Jews.
Well, is that so? That comes from where
so they can clean them. They can wash their hands off,
of their sin. Yeah, they're using the Jews as el chivo expiatorio.
Expiatorio,
yeah. Expiatorio, ¿cómo es?
Expiatorio.
Expiatorio.
Mm-hmm. But
you were saying. I thought Marcos was saying something.
Oh, sorry. Is my internet a little bit crappy right now?
No. You seem fine. I think we stopped you from saying something.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on.
Don't worry. Okay. Sorry, Marco. I muted you. Let's wrap up over here on the Herina.
Sorry, I'm on a tangent.
No, don't worry. We'll come back to it. But let's finish up here with the Herina. Okay, so we're at, this is the Tierra Maria courthouse raid. This is his second time taking a federal building.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nuts. Okay, so keep going for us there.
Okay, in 1968, he runs unsuccessfully for governor of New Mexico, but he gets appointed to lead the Poor People's Campaign in Washington, D.C., which is kind of like a Chicano offshoot. Of course, he participates in the '69 Chicano Youth Conference.
Was the Chicano Youth?
He is called again to account for the.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just asking you: was the conference the beginning of the end?
It was kind of like the beginning of the beginning and the beginning of the end.
I get you. It was like the crest of the movement, like the peak.
Yeah. Because it's kind of like beginning because they're the ones that laid the foundation of what it means to be Chicano, but then immediately afterwards they all get taken out one way or the other, and the movement just dies.
Got you. Exactly. That's kind of what I meant.
Yeah.
Let's
but in 1970, he is called again to account for the role he led in Tierra Maria. He turned down 4 lawyers. He is imprisoned, and he refuses to eat food because he has a suspicion of a plot to assassinate him, instead choosing to share scraps with the other inmates to survive. They transfer him to a mental asylum and is released in 71 on terms that he wouldn't participate in La Alancia anymore. The organization would soon dissolve, so he serves another prison sentence in 74, but to continue to fight for human unity and land rights the rest of his life. And he actually moves to Mexico after a certain point. But that's pretty much the basic rundown of his political life and, well, his life in general.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we could do a full episode, of course, on this guy by himself. This is a fascinating character that within the Hispanidad that I think should be better known. I just found a video interview of him as an old man on YouTube.
That's a good one.
No, let me play it right now. It's a minute and 40 seconds long. So 1 second, guys. Let me go ahead and share the screen. Oh, wait, I just shared the same screen. My bad. Share screen. Where are you? Here we are. Okay.
Some called him an outlaw. Others praised him as a hero. Today, the New Mexico legend passed away at his home in El Paso.
Action 7 News reporter Laura Train tells us why his life and his arrest will live on.
47 years ago, Reyes Lopez Tijerina made history by getting arrested outside the Rio Arriba County Courthouse. He was fighting to restore New Mexican land grants to the families of the original Spanish and New Mexican settlers. To make that point, he tried to arrest the district attorney.
That's when I decided to go to Tierra Maria and arrest the district attorney, because it was an outright violation of the First Amendment.
That was the last time KOAT spoke to Tijerina, in 2011, when he was honored by the city of Las Vegas. Monday, he passed away in El Paso at age 88. And up until the end, his friends say he was fighting for the rights of his people.
He was still fighting, and he said that he would like for me to set up an appointment for him with President Obama.
Ed Romero is the former U.S. ambassador to Spain under the Clinton administration. And while he couldn't get Tijerina an appointment with our current president, he says his friend was not discouraged, telling us Tijerina believed one day New Mexico's land would be returned to its rightful owners.
His cause was just, and to me, he died a hero.
Laura Terrain, KOAT, Action 7 News.
In addition to working in the Southwest, Tijerina spent the last several years traveling the world, especially working with the Palestinians, a cause he strongly believed in.
It is.
Wow. Jeez, man. How come we've never heard of this man? It's like what they robbed us of. What the
You know why, Rancho?
Guys, right, as you say, some of them.
Shut up. Okay, where are we? Wow, fascinating man.
He coined the term Anglo-psychopathy.
Anglo-psychopathy, man, and I thought I was onto something when I came up with jam culture, but now this guy.
That's the precursor to jam
culture. That's really impressive, man. Really impressive, man.
Hey, can you touch a little bit more on that? Like, what exactly is Anglo-psychopathy?
I think we talk.
Yeah, I'll just reread you the quote that he said, which it really kind of covers a lot of the stuff that we've talked about. And it's just nice to hear it from somebody else. This is a quote he said. He said, "I believe the origins of the Anglo-psychopathy began when the English were excluded from the Treaty of Tordesillas, signed June 7th, 1494, between Spain and Portugal. The treaty was brokered by the Pope, and it was at this time that the Anglo not only rejected the legitimate body of the era, but also the religion that went against them. The Anglo, without respect for authority and religion, and to get back into the colonization game, legalized piracy. They had to operate outside the law to become the law. Over the last 480 years, the Anglo complex of psychopathy has worsened. His conscience tortures him, and his thinking grows demented for having violated his own religion, his own law, and humanity.
Wow, that's impressive.
Fuego, está caliente.
For sure. It's hot.
Yeah. And another thing to touch on Don Tijerina here is that he actually used the term Indo-Hispano, which is a term that I believe was coined by Sandino.
Yeah,
Carlos,
he talked about a lot about Indo-Hispanidad, Sandino.
So there's my fellow countryman, Viva Sandino in Nicaragua. If you guys don't know who Sandino was kind of like the Nicaraguan Zapata or Pancho Villa, kind of like a revolutionary bandit type of guy. He was famous for basically doing a lot of ¿cómo que se llama? How do you call it in a military trap when I like lure you in? Ambush. Yeah, he was famous for running ambush. Yeah, he was famous for running ambushes on the U.S. Marines and cutting off their heads. So this guy was a big thorn in the foot of basically the Yale boys. And ultimately, he was betrayed by Somoza. And supposedly they cut off his head and they sent it over to Yale, which I've heard was also the fate of Geronimo. The Skull and Bones.
I didn't hear that. You know what's funny? If they actually did that, and the jail is basically like lecturing us about homophobia, colonialism, and all of that bullshit. That's like pretty ironic.
Yeah, that's that fucking jam gaslighting, bro. That's how jam gaslights the fucking population.
And don't forget Villa. Villa's one of the skulls there too.
Yeah. I was just about to say that. I heard that Pancho Villa's head was dug up from his grave, and then it was taken over to the United States. I don't know what happened after, but I heard something like that. I'm not sure if that's true. Do you guys know if that's true or not?
I believe it. I mean, again, that's the story as far as Geronimo goes, and as far as Sandino goes as well. It's the same story.
I would have put it past the Anglo-Saxons to do this. This is their territory. That's something they would do.
Yeah.
Collecting relics from our people.
Yeah. And to practice their white voodoo,
Yeah, no, and it just proves that if there's something that gets them really mad or that they really don't like, that, and by they I mean the Anglos, that's that a Hispanic that can beat them at something, right? If a Hispanic can beat them in combat, they really don't like that. If a Hispanic can, get one over on them, they really don't like that kind of thing.
No, they don't. They're very bitter and resentful, like their Jay cousins. If you don't know much about the Anglos, you got to know that they consider themselves a lost tribe of Israel. Look up British Israelism. You guys make fun of the Black Hebrew Israelites, but the Black Hebrew Israelites actually got that from the Anglos. If you don't know this story, you need.
I think that the Black Hebrew Israelites, they just didn't want to get left out of the party, so they just found a way to join the party. And everyone wants to be chosen. So I have this thing where I say, like, fuck being chosen. My fucking ex-girlfriend was a fucking whore, right? And she was like jam, like physically jam. She was Judeo-Anglo-Masonic, and like she just pulled like some like horse shit on me. I sent her a message, and then she had some guy like reply to me. And it's yeah, I know how nasty they can be.
But look at some biographical information that I found about Tijerina. He said that he was the son of a migrant worker from Texas. He began organizing communities in Texas and Arizona, but this is an important point. He lacked formal education, but he researched extensively the history of the land, traveling to Mexico and Spain to learn the origins of the land grants. So
yeah, he did.
So this guy is pretty intense.
It's super, super impressive. I just want to address the point that Sammy Martinez brought up, saying your guys are speaking the Anglo language, though. LMFAO. I don't know if you ever heard of rappers dissing each other on their own beats. It's kind of the same thing, buddy.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a funny comparison, but it's pretty fucking accurate. Yeah, and one thing that they also hate, and by they I mean Anglos, is that they don't like it when Hispanics can express themselves
better
properly, or they can speak properly, because they think that they own the English language, right, and that no one else is allowed to like master it.
Yeah, no, I mean, us speaking English and speaking it as well as we do is based as fuck. I
think we can speak
English.
Yeah, we can speak in Spanish, but our line is promoting Hispanista thought to those who don't know Spanish, because
to the Portuguese.
Yeah,
it's basically translating. We're just like translating. Yeah,
and on this, go ahead, Taco. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, like, it's 2021 and English is one of the global languages. Spanish, obviously, number 2, and or either 2 or 3. I think Mandarin is like the next.
That's a great point.
In most commonly spoken languages. So
it's the lingua franca of the world. I mean, so if we want
and
Chinese, the Persians, the Russians, the Africans, whoever we want to reach, us speaking in English allows us to do that.
And I mean, this is nothing. It's not like we're being posers or anything. It's just that's what it is. And we speak English in the United States for the most part, and so we're reaching a U.S. audience that also speak English. Like, nosotros podemos hablar en español si queríamos, pero mucha de la gente no van a poder entendernos.
Claro. Y bueno, el punto es tocar la audiencia de los pochos entre Estados Unidos y a la vez también gente en la China, en Rusia, en cualquier parte del mundo ahora puede escucharnos y comunicar, dialogar con nosotros. This is the irony of history, right? Where this is providence, right? It's like God is always going to turn a bad into a good. And so the world speaking English, thank you for the Anglos. There's things to give thanks to the Anglos. There's nothing wrong with, I mean, we're not trying to shit on every Anglo. A lot of people do this thing where it's like you can't criticize a culture and people think you're condemning every individual. It's just, it's very sensitive, it's kind of like what I think everyone can point out to African Americans. They do that, or they say the Jews do that as well. Well, it seems like the Anglos do the exact same thing. No coincidence there, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. That's what a lot of the Anglo fascists do. They generalize an entire group of people, and if you do that kind of thing, you're just an ignorant person, because I mean, there's always exceptions, and not just that. You can't just categorize generalize an entire group of people. And it's funny because the African Americans do this with the Anglos. They say, oh, all Anglos are racist. And then the Anglos do this with the Jews, and then the Jews do it back to the Anglos. But we all know about their weird little relationship they have. They all, at this point, I'm starting to think that the United States is a fucking like Jayish, jam culture, ethno state. They're all fucking like, they're all Anglos and they're all Jays and they're all AAs.
Yeah, I would say that they're all broke versions of each other, but we can expand on that a little bit later. But I did want to touch on Sammy's comment here. Yeah, I mean, I don't see the issue with that. But this actually leads in very well to a question that Vlad had asked me on a stream that I forgot already the question, but can you go ahead and ask me again, boss? Vlad, if you're there.
Yeah. My question is, if the Anglos are like in control, as you say, wouldn't you think they would stop the demographic takeover of Hispanics over the United States?
That's a good question. So, when you say the Anglos are in control, I don't think the Anglos are in control. I think Jam culture is in control, and I think Jam culture is an amalgamation of three lines that truly wouldn't exist if England didn't lend itself as the like cornerstone of it. You know, like England lent itself to be the cornerstone of that table, where this kind of new culture, Jam culture, I call it, which is intrinsically anti-Hispano, anti-pre-Enlightenment world. Which is where our worldview, ethnoi, and ethnogenesis comes from. But to answer your question, that would seem like the logical thing on the surface level, but that's kind of how Satan works, where you buy into what he's selling, and it kind of becomes like the snake that eats its own tail. If you look at what Henry VIII did when he kicked out the Catholic Church out of England, he basically nationalized all the church land, all the church property, the monastery. And you have to understand that back in the day, say you were wealthy and you accumulated a lot of wealth and, a lot of land, and you died without any heirs, or maybe you had a son, but he was kind of a drunk and you weren't going to leave all your money to this guy. Most people would leave their wealth to the church, right? They would leave it to a monastery and they say, hey, brothers, I'm going to leave you this land because you're going to administer it and use it much better than me. Just make sure that everyone who uses it prays for me, a sinner, right? That was the thing people did. And so over 1,000 years of the church in England, the churches, the monasteries, the churches had accumulated vast amounts of land. And guess who uses land? Well, the peasantry uses land. So if you were a peasant shepherd, you had your sheep or whatever, but you didn't have enough land. Well, you used what was called the commons, right? You use the commonwealth. You use the common land that was administered by the church to be able to grow your business. It was like if we were all shepherds, we didn't have enough land for our sheep, but thanks to the church, we can all feed our animals and run our businesses. That's how the system worked. But when Henry VIII and his nobles kicked out the church, they expropriated all that land. So a lot of the noble classes of England, their original wealth came from stealing church land, which means stealing land from the peasantry.
Rancho, you could even say that Jam's first victim were the English themselves. People like John Fisher, Thomas More, good English people.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's been a history of people fighting against this phenomenon in England. Again, when we're talking about Jam, we're talking about Anglo culture. We're talking about a culture. We're talking about worldview. We're talking about a value. We're not making a condemnation on every single individual. I would expect that people out there have enough sense of reason to understand that. If your IQ prevents you from understanding that, then this isn't the content for you. You should automatically understand that we're not condemning every single individual person. We're talking about the historical worldview and culture in a very, very honest way. But to go back to your question, Vlad, again, I'm giving you an example of how these wealthy noble elites stole the public land, stole public property to make themselves wealthy, and that's what they did over time. The reality is, if you study English history, the English hate their peasantry. They're very cannibalistic against their peasantry and their working class. If we go forward a couple hundred years in English history, and we're at the dawn of industrialization, well, they're after the appropriation of church property, there was still some common lands left. But what did they do? They enclosed the common land. So it's like they still left some land. But before just at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, they closed it all off, which meant you're no longer allowed to make money as a farmer. Well, what did that cause? It caused the cities to swell, and now you get little kids working in factories, which is where our Ugandan friend working or living at a factory in England wrote the Communist Manifesto. That came out of England. So it's like you see the problem reaction solution always comes out of England. You get pervasive capitalism under somebody like John Adams, mercantilism. You get things like Isaac Newton. These are all thinkers that were basically legitimizing in an intellectual way the British Empire, legitimizing that which derooted itself when it cut itself off from the Catholic Church, from tradition, from the pre-Enlightenment worldview. That's what all these thinkers have done. And so they'll give you the problem, John Adams, and they'll give you the solution, Karl Marx. And again, the dialectics, they work by giving you a synthesis of the two. It's no surprise that Darwin came out of there. It's no surprise that the feminist movement came out of there. It's no surprise that the Satanist movement came out of there. It's no surprise that, pop music came out of there in a weird way. These things aren't coincidental. So if you understand the history of this nation and how it went off the rails at a certain point, and you'll realize why all these consequences came out of there subsequently. But to bring it back to your question, yes, why are they allowing why are they extracting think about it. They're stealing the working class from Latin America, just like they're going to take gold from a mountain. All these programs are meant to extract the working class from our own countries. Okay. At a time where the native population of this country, which isn't native, but let's just call them the natives of this country, are at negative reproductive rates. They need new workers in order, obviously, to take advantage of lower wages. Again, these people don't have a sense of noble responsibility to their people, to their peasantry. They look at the peasantry as much of an enemy as they look at, anybody else that they're enslaving. They have no sense of consciousness, no sense of stewardship over them. They're not nobles; they're oligarchs. They got their money not from and their privilege and their prominence, not from being nobles whose ancestors did great things and provided for great people or were heroes in war. They got their status from stealing public land.
Rancho, we also went over this in the Huntington episode last season, how the Anglo does view the Hispanic population as a demographic threat. But I feel like this particular generation is a little short-sighted because they're looking forward to the future in automation and when they can merge with machines and transhumanism.
Right.
They don't care about, like you said, the quote unquote native American person here. Like the original founding stock of the poor whites. They don't care about them or anybody else that comes in. We're just
the Anglos hate their peasantry, which is why they didn't have any problem exploiting their labor in these factories, even if it was little children. They have no sense of kind of this old medieval pre-Enlightenment sense of nobility and responsibility. They're not stewards of their people. They're just there to extract wealth from them like anybody else. You know what I'm saying? So does that answer your question, Vlad?
Yeah. It reminds me of this occult symbol of you mentioned it, the snake biting its own tail.
The Ouroboros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the name of it. Oh, and before I go, I just wanted to suggest you a topic, Rancho.
Yeah.
Like you talked a lot about the racial issues of Latin America. One thing you should cover is the topic of nationalism. And how can you reconcile the identities that have been created within the broken segments of the empire? Because a Peruvian feels Peruvian. And when
to be honest with you, that's getting a little bit ahead of the curve. It is something to we have talked about it in passing, but to be honest, like the the purpose of this channel and the purpose of what we've been doing isn't to give anybody any action items on what to do now. That's way ahead of where we are. What we're trying to do is get a full grasp of our actual history to make peace with it, because of things like the Black Legend, because of much ignorance that we carry, we have like a chip on our shoulders about our past. It's like something we don't want to like unpack and really understand. We all have this notion that we come from essentially rapists and rape victims, right? Which is not true. That's not historically true. That's not how it went down. And so it's something that we need to heal from. We need to sort it out. We need to unpack it, look at it, reanalyze it, put it back together, and then move on forward. And then we can answer that question you're talking about. But at this stage, we've been getting ahead of ourselves if we did that, because it's irrelevant. At this point, it's really more of a cultural conversation. This is not a political movement. This is, if anything, it's a cultural movement. It's a historical movement. It's not about what are we going to do now. I think people who move into what are we going to do now, what tell me what to do, tell me, what I'm saying. To me, it's like the dudes who like don't know how to like deal with women, and like they come fast in their pants. It's like, relax, you got to take it slow. You know what I'm saying? Like let's enjoy the foreplay before we get into the main event. And so that's where we're at right now. But
even so, I mean, I'm pretty sure Spain, their kingdoms pretty much destroyed each other and constantly kill each other before they united. So I'm pretty sure a person from Aragon felt like a person from Aragon against a Castilian, and they had a sense of anonymity there before.
That's a great point.
Before the unification. So even if there are like, there's this division, there's xenophobia among Latin American people, it is not an ad infinitum thing. You know what I mean? It is not it is not like that. It is not like that.
It's not a question of if possible. It's a question of how is it going to be possible. So, and again, it's, for me, it's like getting ahead of things. It's like we're not there yet. I don't have any political agendas for anybody, because we're way at the beginning of things. I think the project at hand is more about reassessing like fundamental presuppositions about history and worldview. Then once we get that ironed out, then we can start figuring about what to do today. But I think we have to question a lot of the things that we just presumed and take as granted and as absolute truth. I mean, just to bring it back into the Anglos, like things like evolution or, all these other things, the theory of gravity, right? Like these things that we just take for granted because we assume they're truth because that's how we've been educated. But are they really true? Is that really the way the world works? Is that really the way the world should work? Is that the only model of the world working? What are the other models? That's where we're at right now.
And in regards to, I'm doing like searching up. I sent you in the private chat.
Yeah, I saw that.
So just to put in context, he's talking about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and at that time, Mexican Americans, they needed to justify their defense of civil liberties on the basis of the U.S. Constitution, But he says interesting stuff, and I think you're really going to like you're really going to like what he's going to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to that. We'll take that apart. I'm sure we'll come back to this guy at least once more, because this is a very interesting character, and this is pretty contemporary with where we are. It shows us that there hasn't been such a tremendous gap between things. It seems like the torch, though the light has been low, it has been carried. I wanted to make a point here of what Jason Muñiz Contreras said, referring to the Anglos, is that the British haven't been liking they don't like their peasantry. It goes right back to the Norman conquest. And that's another very interesting chapter. Say it again. Yeah, and here actually in the studio, you guys, I actually have a British Hispano from the British Isles. He's half Welsh, half Mexican. So he feel free to if you want to hop in and make any points. But Fawn said they got all the bad things from the Franks and ran with it. James L. Kelly wrote on the working class hate and where it started. Yeah. So again, Vlad, these people don't have a sense of nationalism with a big N. To them, the military of their nation is just a tool for their own power and wealth, and it doesn't matter if it comes at the cost of their peasantry. They have no sense of allegiance to them. They don't owe them anything. They're just tools. They're just pawns on their chessboard. Plain as.
So I guess we're gonna be the next peasants, since they don't like their current peasantry. They're bringing us.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. They like us as peasants because we work way harder. This myth of, I think it may have been true for a while that obviously Hispanic labor was cheaper, but today that's not the case. I mean, I have friends who are involved in, the medical cannabis industry in Oregon. They own, farms in Oregon, and, they pay their Hispanic workers more than their white workers because the Hispanic workers just work that much better. And so they're more in demand. They're more productive. So this myth of Hispanic labor being cheaper, and that's why companies go with it, I think it's a little outdated. White people don't hire white people. They rather hire Hispanic labor, not because they're going to necessarily save money, because they can actually trust them to do the work. The big issue amongst the white population, and this isn't their fault necessarily, but the big issue is that, I'm going to hire you and they're going to be smoking tweak on the next shift.
Oh yeah, they're going to be fucking like smoking like crack or meth on the next shift, and then they're going to rob the company for like whatever they can steal from the company. That's the type of shit. That's the type of shit Anglos do. And if they hire a Mexican, let's say he's doing some perico, right, on his break, but he's not going to steal anything. He's going to be like a more honest worker with a lot more integrity than the Anglo's going to have.
Yeah. You can leave the keys to the office in the warehouse to Juan, your worker who's been loyal for many decades, but you're not going to be able to do that for Chadwick or whatever. So that's something that kind of needs to be updated in the perception of people. Now, again, going back, Vlad, to the snake that eats its own tail is like when I come from a religious tradition, a spiritual worldview that basically says when you reject God, your eyes become blind and you're going to do things, but you can't really see what you're doing. And so it's like you subject yourself into trouble. Like one really good example that I think it's obvious and relevant to everybody who listens to this. Let's talk about the Haitians, right? So the Haitians, taking a cue from the French Revolution, said, hey, why the hell don't we do our own version of the French Revolution? If they're doing it, why can't we do it? And that's what they did. And so then they killed every Frenchman in Haiti, and they rebelled, and they convened with communed with demons in order to pull this off. But and they thought, hey, we did it, we won, we're free, right? And then no, you basically subjected yourself to a far worse situation than you were when you were a slave. When what church teaching tells us that if you are a slave, the best thing to do is endure and leave it to God, and do your job in a sense and hope for the best. And at some point, that situation will be lifted from your shoulders if you endure. But if you rebel,
is that what the church says on slavery?
Yeah, if you read the book of Philemon, it's pretty much pure Paul. This is all that book is about. That's what that subject is about.
Yeah, St. Paul brings it all up.
Yeah. So what I'm saying there is that these people thought, oh, hey, we're getting a major win. We killed all the French. Let's kill all the French, right? But then we don't know how to run the farms. We don't know how to trade. We don't know how to do anything. And so really just shot ourselves in the foot. Now, in that example, that's super obvious. But sometimes the devil may dance with you for a very long time. He may give you something and you might think, oh, shit, I'm really winning. But eventually the chicken's coming home to roost. Eventually you got to pay the toll. I think that's what we're witnessing in the quote unquote Western world, specifically within the Anglo-American or the Anglo sphere.
Their countries have to pay the toll. They have to be punished by God, and they want to, like, because of all the fucking degenerate shit that they've done throughout the history of the world. And then when you tell them that, I was talking to some guy on Omega the other day, some Anglo, like, far right dude, and I was telling him, like, your country's gonna be punished by God, bro. And he was like, why? Like, they don't understand why, or they pretend like they don't understand why they have to be punished by God, right? It's like, come on, bro. Like,
one of the things that Anglos and the Jays really suffer from is hubris. And that's a fatal sin to suffer from. That level of arrogance that we're above being able to do anything wrong is really something that these two groups share. I mean, if you take a step back, you will see tons of commonality between the Jays, the A's, and the African Americans, to be honest with you. You know, to me, to be honest with you, they're just each a broker version of the first. So to give you an example, Vlad, if you're familiar with the concept of Tikkun Olam, which is like we're going to heal the world. That's like a Jewish concept. Well, the British version of that is white man's burden. And then I guess the Black American version is Wakanda or something. I don't know. But my point is that it's just each a broker version of the previous, of the first group. They all have the same values. It's all about maximizing profits and minimizing labor. Whereas the Hispano Catholic Mediterranean old world type of value is like you enjoy the actual process of working just as much as you enjoy the end of it. So these are
Ora
things
pro labora.
Yeah, exactly.
Pray and work.
Pray and work. You know, that's very fundamental. I want to address something that somebody said. Where to go? That's a dumb teaching. I'm not sure what he's referring to. I don't know where I went. Anyways, okay, let's go to have a huge fucking disproportionate power. Those countries. I don't know what he means. Anyways, Vlad, do you have any other questions?
No, I just wanted to know that because honestly, if I was like the president or if I was in authority, in a position of authority, my priority be like, oh, my people, they're getting replaced by all these people, or here they're having more kids, so
do you know why you
sneaking to reduce their population or something?
Do you know why you think that way? Because you come from a Catholic culture. And so it affects your most basic worldview. You assume that that's how the world would work, but that's only because you come from a Catholic culture. Try starting a business with someone who's not from a Catholic culture, and tell me about the end results of that. I have personal experience. I'm talking about people who are Protestant, people who are Buddhist. You know, not to knock these people, but there is commonality in worldview. And so that's why you assume that. But the reality is that they don't share that worldview with you. Plain ass, simple as.
Yeah, that's why I always assumed it was the Jays, only the Jays, because if I was
they're obvious.
an Anglo and I saw the Jays doing something that's gonna hurt my people, I would say you're not gonna do that.
Yeah, well, because we're not talking about blue collar Anglos here. We're talking about the WASP elite. We're talking about the founders of Yale and Harvard and Princeton and the owners of the CIA. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, some hick in the backcountry or some redneck, you know, like those people are just foot soldiers and tools that are convenient for them. I would really advise you to really dig into English history. I mean, even before Henry VIII, I think even the Norman invasion reveals a lot. If you know much about really the division between the North and the South, it would be crucial to understand the Glorious Revolution in England when the Roundheads fought the Cavaliers. There's precedent to all this stuff in English history before the Jays became involved. Now, once the Jays became involved through Cromwell, you know, it just made it much more obvious. Literally, British Israelism gets kicked off, and then that's when you see evolution kick off. I mean, what is evolution telling you? That there's more evolved strata of humanity at the top, and of course, we're the Anglos, we're at the top, but at the top of the top is the Jays.
Yeah,
Zion.
You have the Hebrew Israelites at the bottom of that pyramid.
Exactly. And Christian Zionism, what is Christian Zionism? That didn't just come out of the blue. There's a reason why there's so much compatibility between these two groups. And Christian Zionism, that's not even an elite movement. That's your average blue collar, white American, Anglo.
That's Joe Biden, the current president of the U.S. He's a Christian Zionist. He's a self-proclaimed Zionist. He's said it many times.
Yeah, all these guys are. I mean, you can't be a mainstream politician without signing loyalty to the state of Israel. And who started the state of Israel? Well, the Rothschilds, through their connections with the British royal family and the British nobles. I mean, Churchill's family was indebted to them. You see, one of the things that happened in English history is that all those nobles who came from stealing, quote unquote nobles, got their wealth from stealing church land, eventually ran out of money, and then they got into debt with the bankers.
Yeah, it was through the Balfour Declaration.
Exactly.
Basically, the big bankers, from the Rothschild families and that type of ilk, were told that, hey, listen, if you could get the U.S. to join the war against the Kaiser, then we'll give you, Israel in exchange.
Yeah. So, I think if you separate the J's from the A's, you're kind of at freshman level of this stuff. You really need to do more homework, and you really need to realize, it's not so simple as because if you say it's just the Jays, then what you're saying is like these people are like superhuman and super intelligent, It's kind of like when blacks blame whites for all their problem, it's like they're reinforcing white superiority. And exactly. So everyone else whites Jays, they're reinforcing Jay superiority. And again, because we come from a Catholic worldview, we don't view this so much as an issue of flesh and blood. We view this as a spiritual thing. So the J to us is more of a theological condition. It's a spiritual condition than it is some bloodline.
Yeah, you share that great quote from that Romanian guy. What's his name? Cornel. Yes. I mean, that's a heavy duty quote that basically spells that out right there.
I feel like I mention this quote almost every episode.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good one.
It's right on point. And Codriano is Orthodox. His worldview is Catholic. Yeah, and Romanians are Latin brothers. This is absolutely true. All the Romanians in LA are very Hispanicized. They kind of look like us, to be honest. Not your average mestizo can blend pretty well.
Every Romanian that I know here in New York speaks Spanish fluently.
My padrino is Romanian, by the way.
Romanian?
Yeah.
That's like Roman. Is that Roman or no?
Yeah, they're basically like Romans. Yeah, it's a Romance language. It's a little bit different from the Western Romance. It's an Eastern Romance language. They're kind of like Latin Slavs. They wouldn't like that, but that's kind of what they are. If you're friends with one, he might admit to it. But yeah, they're definitely cousins of ours. I would totally. But anyways, yeah, my padrino is Romanian. He's actually born in Argentina, but he's Romanian. Let me share this quote real quick. Vlad, can you read that on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, I think that we try to remember here is that like we're not putting the blame for our 200 years of constantly posting up L's, because that's what we've been doing for 200 years, on Anglos or the French or the Masons. Like, yeah, they're the Jays, they're external characters in all this. they're not the root. In order to get screwed by the devil, you got to buy into what he was selling you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like people can take advantage of your stupidity, but you're the one who committed the stupid act first. So, you know, what we're about is not placing blame or being bitter or resentful towards anyone. No, we take it as an opportunity to be humbled and like learn from our own mistakes. When we rebelled not only against the crown, but we rebelled against tradition. We rebelled against that pre-Enlightenment worldview and those values. And again, we can't go back in history, but we can still confess our sins, you know, and be freed from them. And then at some point, we'll be able to see the path forward.
OG, when you were saying like we're not ready, like we're still like we're still fornicating, we're still like foreplaying. I mean foreplaying, like we're still in that phase. Would you say that we're like deprogramming ourselves from that jam culture and then that Anglo worldview?
I would say so. Yeah, that's what it takes. It's like, and you can't, it's not like, it's almost like you're deprogramming somebody out of a cult, you know? It's like, you have to go you know, level by level here. And, you know, if you guys are interested in this conversation, I would invite you to look at Taking the Hispano Pill. It was an episode we did a while back with Tercio from Mundo Republiqueto.
Yeah, it's underrated. That's an underrated episode.
Yeah. We kind of go into exploring this subject. But we have someone new in the chat here, Mexicano Tradicionalista. Who are you? What's up, dog?
Hey, what's up? Buenas noches. Can you guys hear me good?
Yeah, buenas noches.
Yep. Buenas noches.
Okay, yeah. Hey, yeah, how you guys doing? I've been listening to OG Del Rancho for probably a month now, and
cool, man. Welcome.
I find the content very interesting, so I just wanted to join the chat room to check up on what you guys were talking about.
Well, congratulations, sir. You have a higher than a average IQ, man. If you can,
definitely triple digits.
You're in the triple digits, son.
Yeah,
triple digit IQ, bro.
no room temperature going on.
I'm a little late. I'm guessing. You guys were talking about the Chicano identity.
Yeah. Xolo here was kind of teaching us a little bit about the history, some of the movements. And you know what? I actually kind of wanted to come back to that because it's like, where are the Chicanos at today? What happened to the Chicanos? To I think on the surface level, it seems like they all became Latinxers or what the fuck?
I think there's a division right now.
I think so.
Well, there's a division between the old school Chicanos and the Latinxers, but it seems like the new school Chicanos are adopting the Latinx movement. They're shifting towards Latinx, or they call themselves Chicanx, which is basically the same shit.
Yeah. That's pretty awful. Yeah, that's kind of what Xolo was kind of sharing with us, that the Cholos kind of stayed on the masculine side of things, but it seems like everyone else is kind of going. But even the Cholos, I'm seeing like interviews with like OGs on the YouTube sphere, and they all seem to have kind of BLM sympathies in a weird way. Like,
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of black and brown.
Yeah, that type of thing. And,
especially out here in the Bay Area.
Oh, you're from the Bay Area. Yeah, especially in the Bay Area. I mean, the Bay Area is like the epicenter for a lot of this stuff. Even like the whole Oaxaca is really a colony of the Bay Area since the 60s, culturally speaking. You know, all the NGOs that are involved in Oaxaca and Oaxaca being problematic, let's just say in the greater schema of Mexico, really come from NGOs and intellectuals from the Bay Area.
Well, it's the home of grids.
Yeah, I wouldn't really call them intellectuals, bro. I would just call them like fucking subversive, fucking
exactly
wannabe intellectuals.
Yeah, they are. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of Chicanos nowadays actually actively dislike people like Cesar Chavez because I've seen lots of like Chicanx or Latinx, like, social media pages talk shit about him on
Oh
social
yeah,
media.
they talk shit about Chavez. They talk shit about Vasconcelos. They really hate Vasconcelos. They hate him with a fucking passion.
But I think that's where you get you see the differentiation between people who like Chicano movement people who are in the movement because they actually care about their people, and then people who are in it just to gain social clout and climb up one step on the social ladder within their immediate context in the US. Because people, in my opinion, who it's like, yeah, we'll talk shit about Cesar Chavez or people like that. They just want to get clout with like BLM. They just want to get the affirmative action point. They just want to, feel good about themselves for doing, for fitting in with a broader social movement that benefits them in the short term. It's very like short-sighted, and it doesn't like keep, like Mexican people's like interests like in
not at
mind,
all. Not at all.
And that's where you can sort of separate the wheat from the chaff.
Well, I think one of the things that's good about us finally having these conversations as Hispanos, as Mexicanos, or Nicaragüenses, or Cubanos, or Puerto Ricanos, lo que seas, is that we're finally kind of uncovering this stuff. We're finally like trying to get some closure really about ourselves in the face of white and black America. Because what happens here is that you either become whitewashed or you become blackwashed. And I think
I think that the fact that no one has ever like had these types of conversations before, it just goes to show how like blackwashed and slash whitewashed our people really are in America.
Yeah. And then I think our people are having like a rejection. I think this last year was like a turning point in many ways where people are like, I don't know if I want to keep being blackwashed. I don't know if I want to keep being whitewashed. And then I think, thinking about the cholos and like that generation, which were like all my older cousins, right? It's like they've never had this conversation, So I think us having this, it might eventually kind of spread onto them in that generation, and maybe the younger guys who are like kind of taking that lifestyle again, and maybe give them maybe help them somehow. I guess that's kind of what I'm secretly hoping for, because I think one of the results of kind of digging into this history and trying to get a grasp of it, the practical present application is that like you realize that you're carrying a legacy that's much greater than yourself. That is, you're no longer a rapist / rape victim descendant. You come from these great civilizations that married and came together and created something new. And so that's something to kind of stand up tall for and carry your head high for. And you kind of have to you're gonna have to fit the bill. You have to kind of reach that height.
Yeah, for sure. I think that because we haven't like tapped into our roots, or maybe some of our people have been rejecting like our one of the most important root, if one of the most important roots, if not the most important root that we have in Hispanic America, is I think that has been like disabling us, or in a way like it's like self-mutilation what our people are doing by like falling into this jam culture mentality where they just demonize and reject like basically what we are.
Yeah, you have people who reject the Spanish, you have people who reject the indigenous, or you have people who reject the African. And it's like, it's like you said, it's ethnomasochism. There is a way to be proud and grateful for whatever your unique admixture is, even if you're not necessarily mixed, but at least culturally, you're still part of this experience, right? You're still part of this ethno. We're still gonna back each other up when we beef with the other kids, right? So no one's gonna give you a DNA test. No one's gonna swab you if you have, green eyes and light hair, or if you're, a dark-skinned Indio with an aquiline nose, like you're Hispanic, you're Mexican, you're Colombian, no one is questioning your Hispanicity or your Dominicanness or your Cubanness.
Yeah, no one except fucking Andy No one except Andy's faggot ass.
Yeah, well, we understand that, you know, that guy clearly deals with an issue of ethnomasochism. And you know, it's not much different again from Radical Latino, who kind of rejects our Spanish ancestry or you know, accepts it as, you know, people. I've seen people.
The truth is, bro. The truth is, he doesn't only reject us. If you look at it, look, he treats he puts the blacks over his own people. So I don't really trip on that.
Yeah, no, I've seen people like refer to the Spanish as like, I have colonizer blood. Like, it's so fucking.
No, I feel like a lot of these Hispanics in America are misinformed about our history.
Yeah,
and it
totally.
really comes from the academia that they're being taught, and I'm actually a
The
victim of
narrative,
this.
the narrative being pushed, and then on just to touch on masochism and ethnomasochism. Masochism, that's like some Satanist shit. Like, so whether like you can claim to be like all religious or whatever, but if you're ethnomasochistic, you're a masochist, and that's like some like Satanist shit. That's what a lot of Satanists are into. A lot of devil worshippers are into like BDSM and like a masochistic just sexual fucking degeneracy.
Totally. This fetish that white Americans have with black Americans. I mean, these people supposedly hate each other, but they want to see each other screw each other's spouses.
Oh, dude, you should. It's like in I don't mean to bring it up. I always bring shit up. In prison, dude, the black dudes, they like have a crush on white dudes, man. Honestly, man, like they have a crush, dude.
That's crazy. Tell us more about that, Kilo.
Hell no, that's disgusting, bro. They're dirty fuckers, man. That's why I was telling that dude real on that last time I went in. I was trying to tell him I just didn't make my point clear because he had me all confused because I came in late. But that's why I was telling him that we could never have an alliance between black and brown. You know, I mean, between us, there couldn't be an alliance. That's what separated. You know what I mean?
The thing is, bro, blacks have been pushing like this unity narrative, like amongst their own community, and they've never really accomplished it. So until they can unite amongst themselves, and the same thing with us Hispanics, you know, there's like some animosity, and we have some animosity. Like Hispanics have like animosity towards each other, in a lot of cases. And until we can unite with ourselves, we can't unite with another group.
Yeah, true. But see, you see, the thing is that animosity that you see, that's just human behavior. We're fucking criminals. We get mad. The world is fucking pushing us. But when how the way I see it, see, I'm not good at I don't have a big language, but you know, like y'all do. But I'll tell you something. I'll tell the way I see it, the way to judge a people is like in prison. Like when you have nothing, when you're at your animal instincts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so you go to prison, you get locked up, and we're not fighting each other. We're not fighting each other. We're feeding each other. We here, you need this, here, you need that. And I'm not just talking about Mexicans. We take everyone in. And if anybody touches anybody, whether you're wherever, Panama, don't matter. Like the picture I have right there, these homies right there. They're then the one on the bottom, the black dude on the bottom, he's Panamanian. He's from Panama, Mexican, Honduran, every race, Hispanic race, is together to unite against Crips, Bloods, and all that. All these, yeah, no, not the white. They're not here. Nobody's worried about the whites. No, the whites.
The Anglos are not a factor in prison, bro. They're not like a factor anymore in prison.
Way, bro. No. They're as far as money goes, you know, like they want you to protect them. But I mean, we'll protect them. You know what I mean? If they
you pay their tax.
you know, if they knew better, you know what I mean? If they somehow they think that
They're worth protecting.
they believe the media. You know, they believe the media that you know we hate them and they must hate us. But you know, so they go on that side when they're you know, where do you want to go or whatever. I don't know if they're asked that. I'm not white, but you know, next thing you know, they're being raped. You know what I mean? Or they're paying not to be raped.
Yeah.
And it's fucking disgusting. The way they do it is it's crazy, bro. Like these people are fucking naturally fucking evil, bro. Like the definition of evil, like, you look it up. It's not like I used to think the definition of evil is like, you know, like killing and just shit. Nah, it's ghetto. It's being ghetto. Everything like laughing at someone's downfall, praising money, like just all kinds of shit. This dude read it, and it defined black people to the T, bro.
Yeah.
So much so that he was like, he ended up mentioning the black people,
Yeah.
and when I brought it to his attention, he took his video down because he was a dick rider for him. But he himself admitted it, like right there, like he took the video, like because he thought, like he didn't know that he like had,
he fell
you
into
know,
the trap. Yeah.
yeah, because he said he was giving out the definition, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end, he's also so young shouldn't, you know, should understand the black people, why they are how they are. You know what I mean? In other words, like he saw how it related to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I pointed that out, that motherfucker took it down like quick, bro. And I even fucking what do you call it? Did a screenshot and everything because I hate that 30 and 1 that I used to watch that. This I don't know if it still exists.
Yeah.
30 that dude that did prison talks. And yeah, dude, he took it down. It was dude. I my word, bro. My word that it was everything that the definition of a black person, the way they are.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
I
fucking
agree.
crazy.
That's kind of what I was pointing at, where like they have the same value. Like again, if you look at the trinity of the Anglo-American sphere, you know, again, the J's at the top, the A's in the middle, and the B's at the bottom. It's like the B's are just really broke J's. They're just ghetto J's, you know, but like they're about the same life. They have the same values. Again, it's all about maximizing profit for the least amount of work.
Idolizing money and worshiping money and that type
there
of
you
thing.
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And they're being like the music and well, no, that'll go into another topic.
Well,
but yeah,
they're all like quotation marks chosen. They're all chosen.
Yeah,
people,
that's another,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
That,
exactly.
like, they think these three groups think that God is their race. You know,
Yeah,
where
that God chose all three of them, right?
yeah,
That's-
yeah.
that's-
And
yeah, no, they think that because they're chosen, that they're like they're chosen, like period.
Yeah.
Like they forget that little part that says, "I'm gonna throw you out," you know, and replace you with someone else.
Right.
If you know if you're not gonna fit in.
Right.
So these people think that they're just fucking dumb as shit, bro.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you all something. I do believe in that. Yeah, I mean, because I do read the Bible. If y'all read the Bible, you can you know, argue it with me.
Sure.
You know,
Fuck
tell
being
me
chosen, bro. Fuck
no,
being chosen.
the 12 tribes, the 12 original tribes.
Yeah.
Like it's if you read the Bible, you'll see the plight of every single tribe.
Yeah.
And if you can, if I'll dare like anyone, of you, I'll $100. I'll give you $100, or if you want more, we'll bet more. That if you can find a definition, I mean a people that you can compare any one of those 12 tribes with their plight to any other people, you know what I mean, in history.
Yeah.
Then okay, you win. You know what I mean? If you could say, oh well, that could be anyone, that could be, you name them. And if
It's
people
all
agree,
about how you
that's it.
it's all about how you
You
control the
interpret.
narrative. That's
just
yeah,
it.
how
No,
you
it's like a child. I'm just saying we read what it says. That's what it is. We're not gonna like mess with the narrative. Like that's not how the Bible works.
Right.
If it says this, that's what it is. That's what I mean. Like not like, oh well, you know what? I'm not gonna use that argument. Like as long as nobody uses that argument that, oh well, that's not what what he probably could have meant. None of that. None of that. You know what I mean? Because like God said, like when you read it, like read it as a child. You know how when you sit a child down
Yes,
and you're
yes.
telling them something, they take it in like literal,
Right.
everything literal. Okay, so that's how he speaks. Like
Right.
it sounds crazy or whatever, but no, he's telling you exactly how you should. He's not telling you like in code words. Why is he gonna make it so that we won't understand it?
Right.
So yeah, no, it even talks about the Aztecs. Like, and if you think that there's somebody else that the Bible might have been talking about that came from the north, the tribe of I forget his name, and how they settled in Mexico, or it gives a location, then okay, well then you win. I'll give you the fucking money. Yeah, and everybody's here that you got my word.
Hey,
Or
Rancho.
all other ones, like where the boats where they were taken.
Yeah.
All these different tribes where they were taken. The light skinned ones were over here are us, the indigenous, the light skinned ones.
Mhm.
Then the dark ones were everyone's everywhere. But there's no other 12 tribes.
Ed wanted to ask you a question, I think.
Oh, I was gonna say. I was gonna say you bring up some good points, and there's two things that I want to add on to that. The first one is that the story of like the Aztec migration to Tenochtitlan is very similar to the story of like the Israelite migration to Israel.
Yeah.
It's like extreme. There's a lot of similarities. Like it's very interesting.
We was the Israelites.
Yeah, but the second.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, what you're saying about how we should take the Bible literally, it goes back to what Noé's been saying about how our worldview as Catholics is pre-Enlightenment. Like this whole like highly rational approach to the Bible, where you got to split it apart into little words to try and make it seem as if it's some fantastic mystical text that doesn't make any sense to rational human beings. That's crazy, That's innovation. Like we don't like subscribe to that worldview. Our worldview is pre-Enlightenment. Our worldview is Catholic. Like, and we have like that spiritual worldview where we appreciate the Bible like a little child, because like as humans, like our intellects are like little children's intellects compared to God and His intelligence. So
that's why he does parables and all that. Speaks in
exactly.
parables.
That's our worldview. We're Catholic.
Yeah,
it's like
see the Catholics, they're like they have the saints and all that, and then the saints are all white. They're like pure white, like that.
They're not all white.
Bro, there's indigenous saints, bro.
White. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm talking about. Sorry, I'm talking about the. They made they made one for every for everybody. They made Guadalupe, the Indian one. For everybody, for us, for everybody, so everybody could be happy. Yeah, you got one. But eventually, we're worshiping a white people's. Look, we're kissing the Pope's feet.
My man,
back when I was a kid, they used to do that.
Yeah, it's
He was
nothing
the
to
God.
do.
He was like the adversary, whatever. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yo, Fonz. Hey, OG. Would you say that Hispanic pygmies, whether they're like cucking for Anglos or A's, double A's, are they trying to like to be chosen? Are they fighting for their like right to be accepted by Jam? Is that what is that?
That's what it's all about, bro. They want to be chosen ones.
They want to be chosen, huh? Yeah, I see.
Everybody wants to be special.
I see them like they like the people that get on that double A dick. They the media, you know what I mean? Like they're pushing that the shaming shit. Like if you don't, you can't even get people got fired and shit like that. So
what about Chicanos that cuck as Aztecs?
What about them?
What about who?
What Chicanos that
cook as Aztecs?
What about them specifically?
I see a lot of from what I see, a lot of
Well,
Chicanos like to
yeah. Well, I
think that
think
they come from Aztecs when in reality our ancestors were in opposition of the Aztecs.
yeah, most let the
Oh,
least.
that's to unite us as Mexicans, bro. We have to have something in
That
common.
that's part
See,
of the.
Mexico was given to the Mexicas. Well, it's called Mexico. You ever wonder why they named it Mexico? When you
Yeah,
normally
for
conquer a
Tenochtitlan.
country, you give it your own name,
Let me explain a little
like
bit.
everywhere else in the world.
So yeah, I mean, exactly. He is kind of pointing to what I was trying to point at was that like there when independence came, they had to build a national myth to try to gather everyone together. Now the issue was with that myth, and I think it's the same with all the myths of all the other countries, is that what I describe it as they ran out of steam because they were like blatant lies. When you say that we're all Aztecs and Spanish or whatever, then what about like the Purepecha? What about like the Veracruzanos? What about like the Chiapanos?
We see them under the same umbrella.
I know, but the problem is that you're delegitimizing those people's mestizaje. So my effort to try to heal that issue, because here's what happens when you arbitrarily impose this myth that doesn't work for everybody. You in a sense create taboos, and you kind of create kinks in the armor that eventually,
what taboos?
like you like, to give you an example of a kink in the armor, right, is like the example right now that's really really obvious is the quote unquote Afro Mexicans, right, which are basically all zombos. They're not Afro. They got black, of course they got African in them, but they got indigenous in them just as much. But the thing is, like, in a sense, these people have never been given a avenue of legitimization or expression within the national myth. So when I talk about, if we embrace the concept of the three roots, about Cristo Rey, about la herencia, lenguaje español, and the third root being el mestizaje, well, it allows us to unite on what unites us. And then at the same time, it allows us to be as different as we actually are. So it allows the celebration of the unique mestizaje of this part of Oaxaca or this part of Veracruz or this part
as individuals. Yeah. Okay, I like that. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Well, before I would have been cussing all of you out, like all of you. Like I even if you were here, I'd kill you. But no, I'm just kidding. No. But yeah. But you know what?
Because, like, for example,
I had an argument with y'all and this dude Arnizo, sorry. He really made me think, bro. That I had no right to because I was arguing with all these little dudes, right? But so when you argue with someone, you don't get anywhere. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But he didn't get in the little thing and start screaming and shit like that. So it made me think, like, maybe something. After it was over and I was laying down, it made me think, like, okay, so he didn't lower down to he didn't go down to our standards, right? So because I thirst for knowledge, you know what I mean? I'm open to anything, I mean, to anything that knowledge. So I started thinking, like, why do you? What?
I said Harnizo Hispano pilled you.
He had me, that he only goes by Arnizo, but I don't know his last name.
Hey, Kilo, I've argued with you before on I think Fighters Complex on a live stream. Yeah, but I could tell that you have like genuine love for La Raza, bro. And I mean, it makes sense because you've probably done a lot of like prison time, and I mean, even though that the guys in prison, that they might not be the sharpest tools in the shed, but they have corazon and they got love for the raza, and I respect that, bro. I really respect that shit.
Yeah, we just use it the wrong way. You know what I mean? But we do love our people, bro. We die for our people. Like we love our people. Well, that's what supposedly in our minds we're so dumb as kids. That's why we're getting. That's why we unite as a gang to defend our people. I know that's why I got in it. Like when I started, not just me, like 6 others. We didn't know any English. You know how they teach you English in the special class. started our own gang in the avenue in Ventura, and sadly they are out, like all of them, bro. And I'm just paralyzed from the left arm.
Oh
But
shit! I didn't
but
know.
yeah, but the other dude, yeah, like they ran me over and then I got off and they still stabbed me and shit. I was already like dead, dude.
Damn, dog.
Little faggots. But anyway, yeah, no, but it's gonna get operated. But it just I can't move it right now.
We'll pray
But
for you.
anyway,
We'll be
yeah, yeah, and what do you call it? Yeah, no, but yeah, I do, bro. Like I really do.
Yeah,
But
no.
I
tell.
think everybody should. You know what I mean? So, anyways, to back to that the thing. So I started thinking. I said, "What right?" I started thinking to myself, like, "What right do I have to tell him not to be proud of his Spanish blood?" Because that's what I was doing. And you know what I mean? That he had to, because see, I was brought up on the streets. Like I was brought up, like Mexico. You know, somos indios, somos.
Yeah,
You know, we have to. Yeah, we have to. I have to take spot to the last. They weren't a warrior people. You know what I mean? They call them
No,
Aztec warriors because they
y
fought to the.
sí somos indios, like we are Indians, bro. But we can't like ignore the fact that
Yeah.
at some point, like our Indian grandmothers, they wanted to marry these Spaniards, and these Spaniards probably treated them nice.
No, they did. I mean, my family's mostly Spaniards, bro.
There was Spanish women with Indio men as well. I've seen studies that up to like 30-40% of marriages actually were Indio men. But yeah, we get it. You know, I like to frame the Spanish as our paternal root because you know we carry Spanish last names, simple as.
Yeah. No, I mean when I had to, when I had to, like when I'd be arguing with the black person, they want to like floss that they were a better race. I throw in that we come from the Spanish Empire.
I hit the
I mean the conquistadors. You know what I'm saying? That conquered the Americas. You know what I mean? And top it off, we come from the Aztec Empire. You know what I mean?
Also,
people that were more
the Spaniards were the first ones to introduce Cristo Rey to the Americas, bro. Before the Protestants.
Exactly, bro.
That's
and
something
nothing's
to be proud of.
coincidental, bro. It's because in Rome, because they were part of Rome. You know how they divided supposedly. That never happened. It happened in the books, but it didn't. They weren't really divided. But those were the fucking foot soldiers. They were always fighting. They fought the Moors.
Guys was known as.
You know, everyone knows that.
It was
but I'm saying, you know, that's why they were chosen to come. You know, it wasn't coincidental because they were fucking, you know, they were about it.
You know, to add to that is that they fought for 800 years straight before they got. It's like they'd never stopped fighting for 800 years, and it's like the year that they won, they also stumble upon, you know, the New World.
Yeah, they were. They were like,
that, bro. That makes me fucking proud, bro. I need. You know what? I swear, I'm gonna start reading about Spanish because I didn't like them because they honestly they do reject us, bro. They do. But I mean, I'm not gonna reject my grandfather and all. Mostly, I'm white. I'm not white, but you know.
Kilo, I wouldn't say that they do. I mean, there's player haters in every group. I mean, we can go to different towns in Mexico and see someone to talk shit about another town in Mexico. But no, I wouldn't say that they do. I really wouldn't say that. I think it's quite the opposite.
No. I'm saying the ones that I've heard. I've never heard anyone from a Spaniard in Spain say that, you know, yeah, those are our people. Hell no.
Honestly, bro.
They're very no. They're not mean or nothing, dude. I don't take it wrong. They're just honestly they're like that with everybody. Even
Kilo. I would tell you look into like Francisco Franco and look into the Phalanges. Like
I'm talking about the culture. They're very even the Europeans.
Spain belongs to Latinos, bro. Yeah. Spain is ours, bro.
You guys, let me loop a little bit here to Marco because you know Marco was coming in and out. Marco, are you there, buddy?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, man.
What's up, buddy? Okay, cool. It sounds good. Yeah, dude, we were asking you. You shared with us a little bit that you said that your mom is a New Mexican.
Yeah. I mean, technically both my parents are, but it's just specifically more or less my mom. She's
What do you? What's the situation with your dad? Can you explain that a little bit?
well, he's an Hispano, but our last name's Irish, so it's like kind of throws the whole thing off. You know what I mean?
We got a lot of Irish in the Hispano world. I mean, that's a couple of us in this chat for sure got Irish.
The Irish, dude. I got mad love for the Irish, bro. San Patricio, bro. Those motherfuckers were down, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a little bit off topic, Rancho, but I have a question for Ed. Is he around?
Yeah, I'm right here, boss.
Hey Ed, you being from like Europe and stuff, like, and being Mexican, what is your experience in Europe? Is there a lot of like Mexicans out there? Is there a lot of Latinos, Hispanos in England?
England, I don't know. In Spain, yeah, there's a lot of Mexicans in Spain, man, and I guarantee you, the Mexicans in Spain have less identity shit up like going on than Mexicans in the U.S. do.
Oh yeah,
like that's.
Oh wow.
Ed grew up in the U.S. though.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
I see.
But his
They
dad.
what you say? The Mexicans, they have what? Than the U.S. I didn't hear that.
Oh, I was saying Mexicans in Spain are like way happier than like most Mexicans that I know in the U.S. because like
they don't suffer from the issues. You mean?
Yeah, there's
yeah,
craziness. You know what I mean? Like yeah, man. Like it just that's one thing that I tell like like friends and stuff like in the U.S. who got family in Hispanoamerica who want to come to the U.S. I tell them go to Spain. You get Spanish citizen. 2 years.
Yeah, over here it's fucked up, bro. I mean, my family a long time ago we had to change our last name, bro.
Yeah.
My grandpa to San Roman to Guayar, So I don't. They have their reasons, you know what I mean. But they have to do with some weird shit. I didn't understand.
Honestly, I think that if there was a larger Hispanic population in Spain right now, Spain wouldn't be getting fucked over the way they are because they would have a bunch of like mestizos to be like no, bro, like this is our country. You can't just come and like take over.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Spain. Spain's always suffered where it's like it doesn't know if it's part of Europe or if it's part of its own civilization.
Yeah, it's even split inside, isn't it? Don't they have like these little people these people that they want to be their own little country or some shit.
What you're seeing in Spain is that they're suffering in many ways from the same issues that we are, where the Spanish identity itself is being it's being split, it's being divided,
it's being watered down. Oh, it's divided.
It's being divided. Yeah, it's like Spain is seen as like an artificial construct. It's just kind of like the rise of indigenism within Spain, right? It's like you see these like regional nationalities or identities. They're deconstructing Spain.
So it's not becoming like an industry, like what America became, like a industry, like more like where everybody like a hub, like industrial hub.
What do you mean by that?
Like for example, I thought that's where you were headed with it.
No, that is superficially the issue, but it's just really an issue of identity being deconstructed, just like Hispanidad is being deconstructed over here, where they're trying to divide us into identifying as Indians, or identifying as black. They want to deconstruct us, which is kind of what Mexicano Tradicionalista was talking about, where like Mexicans, Pochos acting like they're full-blooded Aztecs, where more than likely they're not even related to the Aztecs, and even if they are, they're probably still 60% Spanish.
And their like Indio great grandfather probably wanted to fuck a Española. I know I've never fucked a Española from Spain, but I would love to, bro.
Yeah,
I would love to get in the.
Okay, you guys, hold on. Let me go back to Marco here. Marco, you there, buddy?
Yeah. Hey, I just like a Mexicano Tradicionalista. I just wanted to say hi, and I've been watching the show for a while. I just want to say what's going on.
That's cool.
Episode, I felt.
A couple people in the chat that wanted to like learn a little bit more about you and kind of being New Mexican, because like we all have this idea that like the New Mexicans were the ones who have like held on to Hispanidad better than anybody else. It seems like there's no hangups there. Even if you're mestizo, you still kind of have a notion of like the flag of Borgoña and stuff. Like even the New Mexican flag has a cross in the middle of it. I mean,
exactly. It kind of integrates that Indio blood as well.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, I just want to say hi. Sorry about that, man.
Yeah,
I got off track a little earlier. I looked a little room temperature IQ, but I just want to say hi. I didn't
don't worry about it, dude.
I
Do you
want-
curious?
I
Do you
wanted to go back
Spanish?
to.
No,
wanted
well,
to go
that's
back
the
to
funny
my-
thing is that,
Go ahead, Monaco. Go ahead.
that's like the I'm probably the third generation now that doesn't speak Spanish, but I've kind of been doing studies and learning on my own and through school.
Yeah, and that's crazy to me that even though you guys were like forced to lose your language, like they forced you.
Yeah, they felt really ashamed. I mean, it's kind of
Yeah,
bad.
and even legally, they they really attacked.
Yeah,
but you guys still have maintained that root and that identity. I think that's great, man. I think we all.
Hey, that shit, they've been wanting to take away our language forever, bro. Since I was a kid, I was like, hell no. Like I think we're very stubborn. It's because our language is who we are, bro.
Yeah,
you notice you say something in Spanish to people you're speaking in Spanish. There's this a different there's a different energy. There's something about when you're with the girl and you're talking in Spanish.
It's
and you say amor, my love.
It's a very romantic language, bro. It's a romantic language.
Yes, bro.
And then
Yes.
it's also a gendered language. So it recognizes that a man is a man and that a woman is a woman. And there's like no way to like twist it. Yeah,
exactly. And without it, we'd be lost, bro. When you're confused, you'll bump into anything. Yeah, and that's what we're becoming.
Yeah.
Confused. We're being told the boy is a girl and the girl is a boy.
What you're seeing now, like here in LA, is that the white families like specifically want to hire nannies that speak Spanish really well, so that their white kids can learn Spanish, or their Chinese kids or their Indian kids can learn Spanish at native level. So it's kind of interesting that we're kind of in this like other swing of the pendulum where, a couple generations ago, like you weren't allowed to speak Spanish, you get in trouble in school if you did. And then now everyone who's not even Spanish speaking natively, the Persians, the Koreans, the Chinese, the Indians.
When did you get in trouble for speaking Spanish? My bad.
I didn't because I grew up in the 90s generation, but the 80s and the 70s Hispanos in California and before.
No, didn't. No, didn't, bro.
In Orange County, dude, there was a case that they.
Oh yeah, in Orange County. Orange County is like the white people thing, bro. But I mean, that's Orange County. That's not Ventura. That's not LA. That's not.
Like we're talking about in school. I was talking about in school. But let me.
Okay. But yeah, no. But that's mostly white,
Yeah.
I think that jam culture understands how important our Hispanic, our Spanish language is, and that's why they're attacking it with all this like
with the
Latinx.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. They know they of course if they don't know by now, because I mean look at the they took the African language from the Africans. They just gave
Irish,
the African Americans.
Yeah.
They took, you know what I mean? They whatever. And then everybody would just give up their culture, everything. Not us, bro. We like we would have been up on their like the negritos are. They're being given that what's that that law that makes them they have to get a job. Next you know they all move out of LA, like the Compton area is like empty. So Mexicans are filling it up. Affirmative action, of course. There you go. Because we're harder workers. We're not as we're not as savage.
We don't make
excuses. Like our families, our people actually don't like criminals. You know what I mean? Like my mother doesn't like, won't defend me if I kill someone or do something or rape someone. That she won't be like, oh, that white girl. It's all those white girls. They're not ignorant, bro.
that's another thing, bro. That like Anglos, bro. Like if their son does like if the Anglo man's son does like heroin or crack or fucking glass, the Anglo's still gonna be like, oh, he's a good kid. And like the same thing with like AAs, bro. Like when their kids get shot for like gang banging, they'll always say like, "Oh, he wasn't into gang."
Yeah.
He was
No, yeah. They defend it. No, but white people, they're pretty peaceful, bro. I mean, I have nothing against them because I mean, I have against them, I feel as long as I can beat them down, I'm good. You know, it's good. It's all good.
I would say most white Americans are very polite people. They're generally pleasant. I don't have anything personally against any individual person, but again, we're talking here about culture.
Yeah.
Let me bring it back a bit to Mexicano Tradicionalista. I think you were trying to say something, bro.
Yeah, I was bringing up how Mexican Americans, cook as Aztecs.
Cut off.
And I think you brought up the point how it was a national myth to unite the Mexican people.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, but it also brings this narrative of that we see today with decolonization, with
totally
thinking that they're victims of Spaniards, that they came and raped indigenous women, when that's not what happened at all. And if we look at the facts, which I didn't know before, honestly, I used to be I used to claim indigenous.
Sure.
But when you check out the history and you find out that over 90% of the conquistadores were Indios that came and conquered Central America, the Philippines, Peru.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it throws it that's everybody's notion. I mean, it's because again, we have to understand that the elites that formed our republics had a vested interest in making the previous regime look bad. It's like if you stole a dude's girl, you're gonna put it in her head that her ex-boyfriend was a bad guy. It's pretty straightforward. Pretty
yeah,
simple.
no, it's only natural for them to do that. I mean, if I conquered a place, I'd be like, yeah, we all would do that. That's natural, bro. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Can't blame them. I don't blame him. But hey, right now when he was talking, I didn't hear it. Like he was cutting off, or was that my coming from my end? I could hear Ron. Yeah, it's real perfect. You understood him? Everyone understood him?
Yeah, we heard him.
Oh, my bad. It must have been my connection.
Yeah, I heard.
Okay,
it was mine.
I think I'm about ready to land this plane. I don't know if you guys have any questions or any points you guys want to touch on before we wrap up.
Yeah, I just want to say, as an Antillano, just I felt like a fly in the wall for most of the episode, but it was fantastic because I got schooled in a lot of the history that I wasn't familiar with. So I just wanted to thank everybody. Hey, Choro, Kilo, you're a trip, bro. I bet you pack a knife all day. You're that type of dude.
Hell yeah, dude. He went to the bathroom, bro. It's right here. Even right now that I'm laying down, it's in my back pocket, bro.
See, I told you.
I'm not lying, bro.
Ready to
I
shank
swear,
somebody.
bro.
Kilo's always strapped.
Yo, Inquisidor, bro, you honorary, homie.
Gracias, papi. I appreciate that. You already know.
I think every single one of you guys should carry at least a knife in your pocket, man.
Oh, hell yeah. At least that, bro. You got sleeping without it, bro. That's like a huevo, you know what I mean? And I don't have to no more, but it's just like this habit.
Second nature.
Yeah.
But I wanted to,
bro, like my when me and my ex-girl just broke up like a week ago. Yo, the chick had a knife in her purse, bro, and she was about to stab me, bro, but she couldn't open her purse. So then she started throwing she threw a bong at me, and she threw these candles. But I think if she would have been able to get the knife out, that bitch would have stabbed me, bro. And she was,
Yo, this shit sounds familiar, bro.
Bitches are crazy, bro. But hey,
Yeah,
I wanted to thank you, bro. I mean, your channel's enlightening like a motherfucker, bro. Because it
Glad.
took me a while to get a lot of this hate that I like this thing
Yeah.
that. Because
Yeah.
today, like, I don't know, it's because these homies keep changing their names. Like this homie that's talking right now, I recognize his voice, and he like I see them defending. We defend each other in those chats.
Right.
And like when this little when this punk, throws people off the chat,
Yeah.
other Mexicans, that shit gets to 'em, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, so props to all of you that go up there, even though you're not wanted, you stay up there on the panel, representing us. You know what I'm saying?
We gotta
I think
stand up for
that was
our
you, right?
people, bro. But
Was that
yeah, but
was that you today? That he no, yeah, last night that he threw out.
yeah,
Or who
yeah,
was?
that
'Cause
was
you
that
sounded like.
I was in there last night, yeah.
Were you about to scream at that girl and then he threw you out? No, but
Oh
somebody
no,
told you to shut up.
that was Chichimeca when the
Yeah,
black guy
Chichi,
told me.
yeah, I thought you were
No,
him.
that was
Okay, yeah,
Chichimeca, yeah.
him, bro. That dude got down.
Yeah.
He was right there, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all of you, bro,
Chichimeca,
all of you are badass, bro.
no, it's because the fucking what do you call it? The AA try to tell Chichimeca like, hey, have some respect. The women is talking, and Chichimeca was like, shut the fuck up. I want to talk. And then
Yeah,
Radical like
no,
got
no,
on
he
his
was
ass.
actually being cool, bro. He was just like gonna say something. The way they said it was fucked up. You know how they said it the way you
Yeah.
just did? That would have been okay, right? But they were like they said it in a very like like
They wanted,
belittling manner, bro.
yeah.
Like if you guys go and see it, it was like very belittling, bro. If they
Yeah,
had said it like
they
you said
wanted,
it, I wouldn't have gotten angry, bro. I'd have said,
bro, they want to come preach about respecting women to us, and like they want to make themselves seem like they're like I don't know,
another
like they're
team, bro. Like they're just like
white
the
knights.
perfect thing.
So hold on, you guys. Real
Yeah.
quick, somebody wanted to answer a question that was asked here. Which was better, the Mayans, the Aztec, or the Olmec? And Ed had an answer.
It's got to be the Olmecs.
Why the Olmec?
Because they're
Purepecha, bro.
progenitor. The Olmecs are the progenitor. They're like the OG civilization.
What about how do the Toltecs fit in this? Do you know, Ed?
The Toltecs, those were the ones that the Aztecs, because the Aztecs were not racist, but they believed that you shouldn't mix blood. You shouldn't mix, like they wouldn't mix. They'd rather go to war than and get slaughtered.
were Nahua, and they predated that. They were like before the Aztecs.
Oh, the Olmecs.
Oh, so you guys are telling me that our indigenous ancestors were against race mixing?
Hell, fucking yeah, bro. The Aztecs, the Mexicas.
The only people who were pro race mixing were the Spanish, and that's because they learned it from the Romans.
Yeah,
Spaniards.
Wow. Yeah, because they felt that getting people pregnant, that's really what you do. That's how you conquer a people. You put your own blood in it.
Yeah.
And you know what? They even took the.
Let me hear, because Sholo was going to say something. Go ahead, Sholo.
Yeah. The indigenous tribes or nations here in Mexico were so against race mixing that they did a DNA test from the northwest corner of Mexico to the peninsula. The genetic variation is equivalent from Western Europe to East Asia.
Oh wow! And even though they were like technically part of like the same like race, they were like against like tribe mixing, right?
Yeah, ethnically,
But see, the Aztecs, I don't think they bumped in. I think they must have bumped in. They changed everyone around, bro, because they bumped into a race that they called it. I don't know, something with it, whatever. And they were already established. They had been here on these lands forever. So the Aztecs were just nomads coming from the north, from what they called Aslan, right? Wherever you guys think it is. And they said, okay, the Aztecs were cool. They were like, can we stay here, make a place, right? And they were told that because they were way outnumbered, you know what I mean? And they were told, well, yeah, well, give me your women. The only thing they said, you give us your women, we give you ours. And the Aztecs said, hell, fucking no, bro. So I'm thinking those must have been black. Got to be fucked up. You know what I mean? Like they must have been like, hell no, you're black women. We will mix with that shit. So they were like, you know what I mean? No, honestly, bro, because they fought they were defeated, bro. Because I mean, there was no way the Aztecs were gonna win, but that's how strongly they felt, bro. That's when the ones they fought right when they ran into they finally found the island, that little uh mud island that became Aslan. I mean, you know. So I can't speak that language. Yeah.
Man, black women are beautiful. The only reason why you don't like black women is because
Oh
black.
yeah, no, yeah, they are, bro. But their mannerisms, they're fucking loud and obnoxious. Those I can't stand, bro.
Not all, but
No, all the ones I've met, no, but the ones that I see on TV that act nice, or the ones that if I meet, like the ones like I see on YouTube that are very polite, like, oh, I think yeah, you're so beautiful, right? So I do like black women. I don't like black American women
Black American
that
women.
are loud,
the
ghetto women,
culture. I
just
think
ghetto.
I
Period.
think it's the culture. It's not the
Yeah, it's the culture. That's what I mean. The ghetto women. You know what I mean? Yeah,
You don't
no,
like
but
she-bulls.
the black women are cool, but not.
What
not
Kilo, what do you think about Cristina? You like her?
Huh?
Do you like Cristina?
Who's Cristina?
The Dominican girl.
Oh, she's pretty. Yeah, she's pretty.
Yeah.
And she's cool. She's very neutral. It seems. To me, she's very neutral. She's
Let me
very cool.
respond.
But I don't know her.
Godzilla's misunderstanding here. That's not true. That's a really outdated historical assumption. You know, there's a lot of he was saying that all the Indians were one race, and the Indians would have never saw themselves that way, and the genetic studies show that, you know, they're not necessarily that way. I think some Indians came in through the ocean as well. I don't think that can be ruled out, especially around the Andes, especially the whole concept of kind of Atlantis.
Taino.
Yeah.
Well, the Mayans, right? They have like a myth that they came from somewhere else on a boat or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I would.
The god with blue eyes, and he left and he came back. It was Cortez.
It's Aquado. Yeah, exactly. So, but anyways, you guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you, everybody. We've been going for about 3 hours and a half. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, how can I get in touch with you, dog? You have an email?
Yeah, you can email.
You have what? You're on what? What were you gonna say?
I'm on Discord.
It's just, check it out. I can't have money in the bank, so I can't get my card. Yeah, I have money. I just can't have money in the bank. I got issues. And so but I want how can I see the last time I don't to Mundo, Mundo Third Mundo, and he went through where you put the money on the Western part. What's that called? Western Union. Like, or you know what I mean? That's how I was able to do it with him. But like, do you have any way I could do it where
donate some money? Yeah, I appreciate that. To be honest, I haven't set any of that up yet, but I'll set it. Okay. I'm on the Discord though, Kilo. You can hit me up on the Discord channel.
Okay. Oh yeah, I need to figure that out. Yeah, I mean I got it. I'm in it on my phone, but that's where I can't fuck with it. But I need to get on that on the computer. But you know what? I'm gonna have my sister do it through her money. You know, I give her the money and
I appreciate
it, man. Because I'm not used to all this, bro. I just started getting into this. I just got off the street.
Honestly, I haven't set any of that up, but I think I'm probably gonna put like an account together for the channel, and we'll just use that money as we try to grow the platform out.
Yeah, because I think Rancho, I think you've been doing it all off of the strength, bro. And but now if donations start coming in, I think that's a good thing because it'll help you out with whatever you need, bro.
Yeah.
Oh fuck yeah, bro! You haven't been doing that, bro?
No, not at all.
Dude, you should charge for this, bro. This is like a fucking what we need in the world, bro. As Hispanic Latinos.
Yeah.
Fuck, this is like smart shit, bro. This even put me on game, bro. And I'm like, I'm a motherfucker that wants to like fight and argue now, but not no more.
Hey,
Like,
Kino, invite all your homies, bro, to watch the videos and to press that like button, bro. We
they
need those.
won't, dog. They're all criminals, bro. They are, dude. Well, none of the ones that are not, they're like always. I don't know. I will tell them though. I'll tell my my homegirls, like the ones that I know that are living a straight life. But I will tell my homeboys. Yeah.
Yeah.
All good. Taco, did you want to say something?
Nah, bro, I'm good, yo. This shit was good. It was good to hear different perspectives from different walks of life. Kilo, yo, you sound like a real G, homie. Like, definitely.
Kilo cut you, bro, quick. Well, not you, but
Yeah. Nah, I feel you. No, you remind me of one of my homies who was out in like Arkansas. He grew up with me, and then he was in the pandilla with me when we was in middle school. And on the especially when you said you got paralyzed in your arm, my homie was shot on his sister's, like, I think 18th birthday or graduation party, and like he's paralyzed from the waist down. I lost touch with him, but yeah, you reminded me of that dude. Yo, we used to bang together.
Damn, that's fucked up. He must have been really. Was he like the more like, I don't know, the way I see it, like the people that get paralyzed or something, they're very aggressive. You know what I mean? Like,
nah, man, it was just bad luck.
Does that to you? You know what I mean? Like, I just like, he took my arm because he's like, you can't fight no more. You can't do nothing. You know what I mean? But I can kill. You know what I mean? But
I think it was bad luck for him, man. It just so happened,
I just want to say that I think that everyone that comes onto this stream, I think we all have like some form of nobility, bro. I would consider us all nobles, bro. Like,
yeah, exactly, bro. I think I strongly believe that, bro. Amen to that, bro.
Yeah.
Amen to that, bro. We have
novo
thirst for knowledge,
nobilitas, bro.
There it is.
To even thirst for knowledge, bro. Anyone who leaves, it means that they're not thirsting to know something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's not like we have to agree on everything.
Right. It's not just about worldly knowledge.
Listening, just listening.
There's a spiritual knowledge here as well. So
there is, bro.
It's not for everyone, bro. It's definitely a lot of our people are not ready to process all of that yet, but they'll get there.
Yeah. You don't try to make things for everybody. You try to make it for the leaders, and then everybody follows the leaders. You don't go for the middle. You go for the early adopters. But anyways,
because I'll preach your message, bro. I lead like a lot, hundreds of.
Oh, for sure. That's what brings everybody here. I think everyone has some of that in them. But with that, I want to say good night to everybody and thank you for joining us today. And hope you guys
Buenas noches, hermanos. Que Dios los bendiga a todos.
Igualmente.
Que la pasen bien.
Bendiciones.
Bueno, pues igualmente, cuídense. Al rato.
Hasta la próxima.